Call this meeting of the Toledo City Council, regular meeting for December 17th, 2025 to order. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's take our roll call, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Chambers. Here. Councilor Keating. Here. Councilor Burns.
Here.
Councilor Sylvia.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Kaufman.
Here.
Council President Mix.
Here.
And Mayor Cross.
Here. All right, at this time, I'm going to pass the jurisdictional gavel to Council President Mix. It is difficult for me to run the meeting online, and I apologize for not being there in person, but none of you want this. I guarantee it. Go get them, Tracy.
Okay. And at this moment, we will open up for public comment. Is anybody in the audience prepared to make a public comment? No, how about anybody online? Looks like we have somebody with their hand raised.
Go ahead. You can unmute and talk.
Good afternoon, good evening. This is Cynthia George. Can you hear me?
Cynthia, can you hold on just a second?
Yeah.
We need the 3-minute clock.
Okay, give me a second.
There you go, Cynthia. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I come to you this evening after a very horroring night on Pioneer Trail, and I do believe that we've suffered a home loss, if not more, on the top of the road. What I've been concerned with and brought forth to you all has happened. The trees are now falling from the clear cutting. And as you saw on the Siletz River, the mountain has come down. We knew this was going to happen. And unfortunately, I think this is just the beginning of what we're going to face this winter time. So I hope that we start re-looking and reevaluating how we're treating these forests, because what we're doing with these monocrop hillsides and then logging right up into the feeder creeks in the summer, when they let loose in the winter time with nothing holding the hillside, they all come down. So we have many, many concerns in the county, and I hope finally we can all start pulling together. I'm sorry that the mayor hasn't chosen to step aside. I'm still waiting for that day. We need people that we can trust and of good standing in the community. And so let's start finding those people in the community. And I thank you. You guys take care of one another. This is not going to be an easy winter. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Do I have anybody else online that would like to speak on an item not on the agenda? I don't see anybody. So with that, I'll close the public comment period and we will move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to discuss any items on the consent agenda, or I would entertain a motion or motions?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Paul, can we go ahead and get a vote?
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Kaufman.
Yes.
Councilor Chambers.
Abstain.
Councilor Keating.
Yes.
Councilor Sylvia.
Yes, sir.
And Council President Mix.
Yes.
Mayor Cross.
Yes.
Motion passes 6 yeas, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much, Paul. Now moving on to the community service reports and our presentations to the council. The first one up is Amber Brown with the Chamber of Commerce in 2026. Amber.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amber Brown. I'm the new director of Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to officially introduce myself, let you guys know kind of where I'm hoping to take the chamber in 2026, try to help fill Main Street, and if not with events, permanent businesses, as we all know, the Main Street's kind of been dwindling and we have a lot of empty commercial space. So events we have coming up, we're going to have the Hearts Up here soon, probably the end of January, beginning of February. So if anybody's wanting a heart with their sweetheart, get a hold of the chamber. We have seafood and wine coming up. We do a big fundraiser there. We have a booth, so if anybody wants to come help the chamber and volunteer, we'd love to help, extra hands. So far on the books for the chamber that we have dates planned is the waterfront market as normal and the car show flea market. I'm hoping to add a few more events this year. I really loved, we used to do block parties back in the day. That was fun, got a lot of people on Main Street and out of the house. Antique fair used to be a fun one too. So I don't know, I have ideas to try to get some action in our town, guys. So I just wanted to officially introduce myself. Oh, we did also roll out a community calendar. So if the city has any events coming up, please ship them on over to me because I'm trying to include everybody in that because I want one place that our whole community can come to, see what's happening around town. So, yeah. Anybody have any questions for the chamber?
I do.
Okay, yes.
Actually, so do you have a board?
We do have a board right now.
And how many serve you on the
Right
board?
now we have 11. I think we can hold up to 15. So if anybody's looking to be on our board, our next meeting is January 8th at Whimsy at 5 p.m. I was also going to put kind of some public invites out there for anybody that'd like to
Sorry,
come.
January 8th is a Wednesday?
Yes. So we do our meetings Wednesdays and Thursdays, or it might be a Thursday.
Thursday.
Might be a Thursday.
Okay,
We usually do them Tuesdays or Thursdays.
okay.
But we'd love any involvement. Anybody wants to come be a
How
part of it.
often do you hold your meetings, please?
Once a month.
Okay.
A couple of things. One, I think we had heard a couple of times from your predecessor an intention to schedule events that weren't conflicting with city council so that city council could actually be present and support the Chamber of Commerce. The biggest event that you guys have, for instance, so I used to serve on your board and I know with absolute certainty that last December, the schedule of the city council's meetings was shared with the director with the intention of making sure that the Jingle Mingle, for instance, wasn't on a conflicting date. It was again on a city council night. I think I just kind of want to encourage now that you're in this position, we would love to support, we would love to be part of efforts with the Chamber of Commerce. It's hard to feel like we are welcomed and wanted there when it seems like a lot of the scheduling was on very known conflicts.
Yeah.
And especially when we would find out later on that we are being criticized by members of the board and the director for not being there on nights of those known conflicts. So I'm really excited that you're the new director. I'm really glad that you're here. I hope that you'll keep coming back. I think that was another presence that we didn't really see a lot from your predecessor. We only had one meeting with her.
Okay.
So I'm really, again, this is not meant to be critiquing anybody. It's about a step forward. I hope that what you're hearing here is that, at least on speaking on my own behalf, I would like to be more engaged with what the chamber is doing from my position as a city councilor. And I hope you are hearing that scheduling is probably one of the biggest barriers to that.
Yes,
So-
so I absolutely agree. It needs to be, all of our events need to be around. That's kind of part of the community calendar that I've built, so then we can plan and make sure that everybody can be involved. I think that relationships around the town as a whole are huge for our town to grow at all. And that's one of my big goals, is to just have a healthy relationship, positive relationship with the city, with the port, with everybody, so we can all work together and just make our town feel homey, feel cozy, have fun, great events. So I agree with that. So I will be in tune with what you guys have going on to try not to conflict.
And the only other thing is just kind of a weird little thing, and that's, I know you guys do the Seafood and Wine Festival, and that's a really great sort of presentation to the tourists, which I know that tourism dollars fund a lot of the work of the Chamber of Commerce. And you guys do the Seafood and Wine Festival, and that's a really, really great presence for kind of Toledo values, Toledo business values. I think a point that I've been disappointed by and that I've heard from several members of the community is that the wines that are sold are exclusively California wines from the Toledo Chamber of Commerce. We have great wines in this region. I think that's partially based on the vendor that you guys partner with that provides the wines that you sell. I just wanted to encourage that. I think that from my own perspective, I think it would speak volumes if we were to really kind of embrace that we live in one of the best wine regions in the world for at least particular types of wines. And if that's the only introduction that a lot of these tourists have to Toledo is through the Chamber of Commerce's presence at that Seafood and Wine Festival, I'd hope that we are representing our state at a bare minimum.
Yeah, well, I will, so I am new to the seafood and wine scene, okay? But I am starting to, the ball's getting rolling with that, so I'll keep that in mind when we're trying to choose our wines. I'm not sure what options the winery that's already set up is gonna give us, but I'm open to suggestions if you have, other wineries or specific wines or anybody local that does wines here. I would love to incorporate them because I agree. I think that we need to keep it local and, boost our little town up and boost Oregon in general, so.
Love it.
One closest winery I think of is just out by Wren.
Yeah, there's some out there,
There's
yeah.
some out there.
I've got a bunch of them right nearby.
Oh, and in Paloma, do we have any closer?
We've also got a guy who does some like fruit wines up in Depot Bay.
Yep.
And does some really interesting
Nice.
stuff.
Well, I'd love to get his contact information after the meeting. You guys are able
Russell's
to do
sweet,
that.
he makes some good stuff.
Okay.
Congratulations
Yeah.
on your new position, Amber.
Thank you.
And we are
Excited about it.
so excited.
Yeah.
We're excited for a renewed relationship with the Toledo Chamber of Commerce and to see you guys grow and succeed and us as well. So definitely, reach out to us anytime. And if you worry about whether or not you should, you absolutely should.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, again, if you guys have any ideas or anything that you want to see in our town, bring it all to me. I'm taking all the ideas and compiling them right now and gonna run with them in 2026. So hang on, guys.
And likewise, right? I think that goes both ways. I think one of the when Kathy did come, I think one of the questions that I had asked that I'll kind of challenge you to think about as you're getting into the role too is, do you have perhaps the most intentional pulse on the business community here? And you can serve as a really great advocate for them for how we can help them.
Okay, yeah.
And so, I hope that you keep coming to some meetings, put it on the agenda to come and tell us when you're hearing from your members that they need help on this, or, there are policies that we can consider that would be more supportive of our local businesses. If you hear somebody saying, I want to set up business in Toledo, but this is preventing me, come tell us so that we can think about problem solving it with you.
Okay.
I think it goes both ways. We can be a great ally to you as well, and I hope that you see us that way too.
Yeah, well, I do right now, so we should be good. All right, perfect. Thank you, guys.
does anybody else have any questions or comments for Amber?
No.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Amber.
All right. That was great. Now we'll move on to Scott Edwards Architecture, the city center cost estimate and design updates, and Rich.
Thank you, Madam President. We do have an update this evening from Tim and Scott from Scott Edwards Architecture. They were here last meeting 2 weeks ago. Council gave consensus on their preferences for a primary floor plan and an alternative floor plan for the Civic Center design. Sandra and Tim are back this evening to provide a updated cost estimate for that consensus that you provided, as well as some some concept designs. So I'm happy to turn it over to Tim and Sander, who are joining us on the screen this evening.
Thanks everybody for having us back again. I think the majority of you were around for the last presentation where we had the options A through C.2, and you guys all voted, and we've further developed that final option that sort of had everything that you were interested in the addition for the council chambers, the additional elevator, and sort of like, all the bells and whistles. And so what we've got today to show you is the site plan, floor plans, elevation, just sort of a small drawing package of the final design, the concept, and then rendering package. And it's pretty much the same estimate that we showed you before. It's just simply that final option and not all of the options together. So this would be a good package for you to be able to take for fundraising, take to the legislature if you can lean into that bill in the short session, which would be amazing, and just sort of circulate so that the public can get excited about it, and the anybody that can help you fundraise for it can know what they're looking at and know what they're going to get. Sander, you want to take them through the plans?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And thank you all for having us again. I'm just going to walk fairly quickly through the plans. These are pretty similar to what you all saw. And of course, we just have developed option, what we were calling C.2, 2 weeks ago. So just to remind everyone of the site plan, this is the existing building up to about where this diagonal wall turns and goes east-west. And then this volume is a proposed addition to the building, which houses the council chambers. So to walk through the site, the public and city hall access is from the north, and we've developed the existing parking lot to provide access to this northern part of the building. A couple elements that we've added since the last time, we've improved this plaza a little bit and refined it. We're thinking about a couple nice ways to kind of frame this as a really welcoming, nice space for the public. So we've added a few planters here. And then one of them also incorporates the flagpole as part of that. And then that public plaza provides public access into the lobby and the council chambers. And then as you move south, it also provides the public interface to the city hall staff that has a public face. As you move south, the public can walk through this sidewalk down here and access the police volume of the building. And they have a public lobby here where they can interface directly with the police department. And then as far as the functioning of the police department, there's a secure police parking area off the west side of the building that's divided from the public parking, and they have 12 spaces there. And then the west portion of the building also has a small space that's secure for the police to come in, and gives them also secure access to the back of the building where their holding space is and their evidence vault is. So that's a nice functional way for them to access the rear part of the building. One note on the site plan, we've developed this a little bit more with a kind of nice decorative fence around here to also make sure it does feel really welcoming and a nice public amenity, and not too fortress-like for citizens visiting the city hall. And then I'll move to the floor plans. So these are very similar to what we presented 2 weeks ago. Just to remind you all, we have the public lobby here, which is in the far northeast corner of what would be the existing building right now. This is a new vestibule that accesses that. the council chambers with 24 audience seats, and then 2 public restrooms for the public to access in the lobby, and then the main reception counter where the public can talk with folks from planning or accounts payable. And so all this public facing city hall staff is concentrated to this area. And then this portion of the city hall staff resides, or the less public facing portion of the city hall staff resides in this side. And then as far as the council access to the elevator, they can come down this private hallway. So this is a secure area, and then they can circulate down into the basement via the elevator or the stairs, and have a place to recess in this private conference room. And this would also be accessible during non city council meetings to the city hall staff and also the police. And then coming back up to the main floor, we have the police department elements that are more public facing, as well as a locker room and shower area for the police to quickly access as they come in and out. This is their police only entry that's completely separated from the public. And then a holding cell and evidence processing and preparation towards the side next to the vault, which is evidence storage.
Hey, Sandra, can you go back to the first floor again? One thing I want to chime in also and sort of zoom out is that as we put in the new entryways, and we should have a dashed line around the police area, but if you scroll up to the upper one, you can see the dashed line, which denotes go to the upper vestibule. There you go. That dashed line denotes where we have sort of covered porch. So as you come into the building and you go in, there's going to be a covered area. So that'll be nice when we're having a lot of weather. And then there's another one on the other side, which really sort of lights up the building and breaks down the mass of the building for the view that you have from the street. And also if someone is going around the building and going back to there, it gives them a little bit of a protected area. But that's one of the sort of amenities that we've developed that you'll see in the elevations and in the renderings later.
Yeah, thank you. And then just to finish up the police department area of this is the upstairs, accessed by this elevator that'd be secure for the police, or the stairs. And they basically have their offices and break room up here. And then let me move to the elevations. So these are new. You all did not see these last time. And let me just start at the east elevation. So this is looking from the parking lot area towards the east side of the building. And as Tim mentioned, the main new feature here are these 2 new vestibules. So this is the public area vestibule with a new kind of porch. And we're imagining that this would be kind of a nice wood look with timber columns, a cedar soffit here to give kind of a nice warm and welcoming presence to that. And then there's a matching one for the police entry here. So these 2 important entries are kind of denoted for everyone. And that also has a nice wood cladding to it. So those are new elements. And then the other new element is, of course, this new addition that houses the council chambers. And what we've done here is really try to match the existing building in the way that this volume comes out. But then we've clad it with a large sign here to welcome folks in to the city council and the city hall. And there's a number of ways you could take this. This is one idea. You could have a large, welcome to Toledo sign. It could be a metal sign that's cut out and backlit, or it could also be a chance for public art, or just another way that we can work with you all to design that to be a welcoming space.
Mm-hmm.
And just another note looking at this. So one thing that's really nice about this floor scheme is that it does have the police in this 2-story volume, and then the city council and city hall in this lower 1-story volume. And so um, by by changing the siding types, we've kind of denoted that the division of those two different areas of the city hall. So let me just circulate around. So if we're going counterclockwise around to the north side, so you're seeing the new addition on this north side. And what we've done here is kept this wall fairly windowless, so you can't see. So not everyone can see in to these chambers, but then have a nice large window up high to let light in. So there's some privacy for what's going on in the council chambers and lessens the distraction, but yet still allows a lot of light in. And then you can see here, there's the other new canopy to provide a little bit of shelter to this walk in the back of the building. And then as we move on to the west elevation, so this is the side facing Highway 20, you see this new canopy here, and here's the new building addition. And then as you move on here, this is a different siding type to tie it in with the police department down here. And one thing that Tim can also elaborate on, we are for this concept design deliverable, we are imagining that there would be new siding on the building. That certainly does not have to happen, but just as a way of really putting the best foot forward for this fundraising, we wanted to show what that would look like. Again, that can all be worked out further in the design process.
Yeah, our thought is that this would still be within the range of costs, but if we did, we really took the license of like, what could this building be? What would be its best sort of next incarnation, and really feel like it's a civic building. And so we went ahead and sort of reskinned the outside. And if we did that, it's still within the range of cost that we showed you the last time. It would just put us at the higher end versus the middle or the lower end of that cost range. And these are all things that are not set in stone, clearly, just so you know. I mean, it's a beautiful picture to try and have you go out and raise money. And when it comes down to the real project and when we're really doing the construction documents and we're getting costing from a contractor, we can make all the decisions whether we really, like, if you get all the money that you're going for from the legislature, maybe you have everything you need and we can do all of this. But if you don't, then we clearly have an ability to sort of scale that back. And we can still differentiate the two volumes, which really makes a lot of sense. We would just be doing it with paint color and not with different siding. So it'll be a little less sophisticated looking maybe, but we can absolutely, this is sort of a, wish list kind of an item.
Yeah. And then just to finish on the south elevation here, there's not too much that has changed on this side. We are providing a couple ideas of where solar panels could go. And Tim can talk a little bit more about this when we get to the budget portion or the cost estimate portion of it. But there is 1.5% of the project cost that needs to be devoted to what's called green energy technology by Oregon law. So we're just imagining one way that 1.5% could be used on this side. And then we've just denoted kind of a area where you could change the siding here and add windows. And this is right where this the police stairway is. And this would let a lot of light kind of right down into the center of their space, which otherwise doesn't have a lot of natural light in there. So that's just one idea of something that could go on the south elevation here. And I will turn it over to Tim and we can review the renderings.
All right. This was definitely a fun part, working with our rendering department and dialing in the building. So go ahead and go to the aerial first. This really gives you a good idea of the organization of the building. You can see how the taller police volume is sort of a white. That's like a very simple, hardy panel. And then the rest of the building has a little bit more detail with the horizontal siding and the vertical battens. And so that gives you, and then you can see the two new covered porch sort of entryways, one for City Hall and City Council, the other one for police back in the back. We have retained pretty much all the windows that are there and added some. You can see the clear story windows up at in the council chamber at the end of the building. So when you are having an event in there, when you're having city council like you're having now, that will really act like a lantern to everyone that's coming into the public parking and from the street when they're going down into sort of the center of town, which I think will really call the building out nicely. We've really tried to develop this, the public side as like a really true city hall civic amenity area. And so there's a lot of nice built-in concrete planters, benches, the plaza. And the idea there is that we would probably have like power at the center of the plaza so that you could have, an autumn event. You could have a Christmas tree there or a holiday tree if you wanted to decorate something. You could potentially really be able to have common or community events that would be held both in the building and then in this gathering space outside of the building. And then it was very important to have that secure sort of perimeter for the police. And so if you zoom out, you can really see that the police sort of precinct in back is really sort of wraps around and is on both sides of the building on the south side. And we've tried hard to give them that privacy, to give them that enclosure, but to do it also in a way that still feels like it's a nice civic gesture, board form concrete and sort of a vertical post fence, so that as a backdrop for the public area, it still feels, and as they the public circulates to go back to the vestibule for the police entry, it still feels really nice, and it feels like a public building and not just chain link, but something that feels more civic. But this image was important for us because it really gives you an understanding of not only how the building gets divided up and signed in a way, because you can read them as being sort of separate volumes, but also how the site itself was going to be divided up and sort of clear.
Tim, while you're paused for a moment, we had a question from one of our counselors, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Can we do away with the bomb drop target in the front yard?
There's a million different ways we can design the plaza. That was just meant to be like a spot off center that you could put some sort of a
It just looks like a bomb drop target, sorry.
should I
Bullseye.
do it so it looks more like a bullseye or a dartboard? Yeah, no, I mean
That would be okay.
that's definitely changeable for sure. And it is all just flat. It's just different colors of concrete. But yes, that does look a little bit like a.
Is there a view from the 3D view like that from the west side that shows the roof line and whatnot?
There are two more. There's one sort of if you landed down on the ground where we are now, and then there's one from the south that we'll cycle through. Okay, Sandra, you want to go to the next one? So here's the first one. This really gives you that idea of that experience of coming to the city hall from a public standpoint. And the sign, the Welcome to Toledo sign, which we would work with you guys to really sort of dial in exactly what we want that to say. If it is, it's a good opportunity for wayfinding for sure, signing the building. But what we're showing is just sort of a core 10 metal, which is an interesting metal that sort of has this beautiful rusted patina to it. But it's also, like Sandra said, an opportunity for art, if you guys wanted to have some sort of a mural or something like that. Because I know from the last meeting we were with that's really an important part of the Toledo culture. So that's an opportunity. And then here again, you can see the two different palettes, the horizontal sort of V-groove siding, and we are changing the exterior, but the idea is that it's all like hardy siding that is still going to be really bulletproof and will last for a long time. So we're not proposing any super high end materials for the exterior of the building.
What if we wanted to keep the siding that we have? Because we just replaced it.
No, I realize that. And that's what I was talking about before. This is our wish list of what the building could be if it, if it could be anything and we are going to reinvent it. But if you guys didn't want to do that, or you didn't end up with the full amount of money that you needed to do all of the bits, then clearly we can do a similar separation of the two volumes with just color. So absolutely. The benches, the planters, you see the cedar heavy timber beams and columns with sort of a concrete base at the entryway, so that sort of develops a vocabulary for every time you would enter and exit the building, and it would also warms it up. It feels a little bit more sort of human and welcoming, and you have the cedar tongue and groove ceiling for the exterior portion of the canopy, and that would go through all the way into the vestibule. And you get a sense of the fence that goes around the police secure area also. So it's board form concrete, which I don't, if you're not familiar with that, the panels that they use the wood panels that they use to put up the forms for the concrete to be poured into, they do it with 2x boards, and then you're left with that sort of like impression of the boards left over afterward, and it's a really nice it's a nice texture and a nice look to it. And then you get just a little bit of a glimpse of view into the police precinct, so you understand that there's something going on back there, but you don't have a really great direct view of what it is, so that the police area is more secure. Sam, you want to go to the next one? And then this is the south side. So this is really a view of the police building, essentially, because everything that you're seeing on outside and inside from this view would be all police sort of headquarters for Toledo. So we got your logo and put a little sign on the fence so that you can really make it clear that what's happening on this side of the building versus the city council, city hall side on the other side. Okay, does anybody have any questions or want to go back to any of the images to take another look at them?
No?
Okay, great. Well, this is our package renderings. I guess the last thing we have is the costing. And so this is just drilled down from what we gave you the last time. The only difference is that this is just showing this option, not all of the 5 options, the like A through C.2 or 4 options. And the only difference here is that we did add in the very middle row, you can see the 1.5, which is an Oregon Energy Code requirement, which is, just it's a code required for all projects, and is getting, more stringent for what you have to do as the energy code gets refreshed every couple of years or so. So the low-hanging fruit, which I think would make sense for the building since it's a primary facility, would be photovoltaics on the roof. And the police portion of the building is high out of the sort of shade of trees and faces south. So I think it really is an obvious choice to do that. So that was and that would also feed into you if there's a power outage. If something's going on, you have the generator, and then you also have the photovoltaics, which will help make sure that this building can continue to run even if there's an earthquake or trees down on the power lines or something like that that's happening, which I think would make a lot of sense. But the reality is that photovoltaics is one way that you could spend 1.5% of the hard costs that's required. There's a lot of different ways that you can spend that money. And then, like I said, it just goes through, I'll just run through it really quickly, but this is all the same things that we had before. So everything's listed as a low and a high, so there's a range for each one of these pieces. So the interior renovation, low and high, the building addition with the city council chambers, the site development, and then you have the hard cost sort of subtotal. And then on top, and then that's what you use to develop, that's what you use to calculate the 1.5%. It gets calculated on that hard cost total. And then sort of added that up again. And then we just added soft costs and a contingency and some escalation to give you an idea of sort of where we might end up with this, especially if it's, a year or so out, a year or two out. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Anybody else? Questions? No, doesn't appear that we do.
I would like to say that it was really wonderful working with all the staff, all the city hall staff and the PD staff, and all the back and forth and getting feedback from them and comments and developing the plan. It's been a really fun and enjoyable project to work on, and we really hope that it comes to fruition in the near future, and we can circle back and really realize all the work that everybody's done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just want to say on behalf of the city staff that it has been a great experience working with Tim and Sandra. They've come to multiple staff meetings. They came to multiple management meetings to give us, updates and presentations. They held individual meetings with the city hall staff, with the police staff, really heard from us what our needs and desires were from a staff perspective, as well as hearing from you as the elected leaders. So just been a great experience with you gentlemen as well, and appreciate all the hard work. And we'll take it to the legislature from here, and really appreciate the documentation, the great information you gave us that we can take to them. So thank you very much from our side to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, now that we're done with the community service reports, we'll move on to discussion and information items. First up is Uquina River Museum of Art, the final report. Are you handling that, Rich?
Just to thank you, Madam President. Just to say that the report is in your packet this evening. It was provided by the organization directly to Paul for inclusion in your packet. If you have any questions, I would be happy to route them to the organization and bring you back responses to your inquiries. But tonight it's provided for information only.
Great. Does anyone have any questions on that? No? Okay. Moving on, proposed updates to the city council rules.
Thank you, Madam President. The next three items are being presented to you this evening by the city attorney. So it's going to be the Savani Miller show for a little bit, and I'll be happy to turn the floor over to her.
Thank you, Mr. Huebner. Okay, so we are coming back, just following up on council's workshop discussing potential updates to the city charter and the council rules. And I'm happy to start with either. Basically, these, what you have in front of you are the existing versions of the charter and the council rules, with red lines based on what the council discussed and requested. There are a couple of additional documents for your review. I know that at one point we had talked about putting a policy in place to handle the council's receipt and consideration of requests for funding out of the strategic reserve fund. And I think after review and working with the council rules a bit more, that probably is better suited to be a standalone policy. So we've proposed that as a resolution that the council could adopt as a standalone policy. That's just kind of a stylistic recommendation for me, though. If you prefer it to be in the council rules, it can go there. And then the other document would be the League of Oregon Cities model rules for land use hearings, which are not yet incorporated into the council rules, but could be. And so the proposed charter changes and the proposed council rules are not yet in the form that you would adopt them. This is meant to be another discussion item to see if you have any additional comments, changes, additions based on what we discussed last time, now that you can see it in writing. And then we will move forward once you finalize that with a red line version that you could adopt at a future meeting, likely in January. And then, of course, for the charter, we'd have to go through the referral process, which would happen later.
Does anybody up here have any questions on the council rules, or you guys need a minute?
I'd like a couple of minutes.
And I'm happy to kind of walk us through the significant changes. Some of them are kind of just cleanup, non-substantive, capitalization, formatting, that kind of thing. But there were a couple of substantive changes in the charter and then several substantive changes in the council rules.
I'd appreciate if you could walk us through the more substantial changes.
Okay. Okay, so starting off with the charter.
Actually, can you start off with the council rules?
Starting off with, absolutely, starting off with council rules. Okay, so you'll notice, not necessarily a substantive change, but you'll notice throughout we've changed the charter references to match the current charter. Starting off in the quorum section, these adjustments are tailoring the city's council rules to the League of Oregon Cities model in situations that have come up previously. There is an alternative, jumping down to work sessions, which is on page 7. That's one area where the council's rules at present differ from the League of Oregon Cities model. And so the language that's in the red line in the document is from the model rules. There are some, I did make a few adjustments to the model rules because of the way that, so the model rules intend for work sessions to be called by the city manager, but I know that the council has also expressed and often does request to have the opportunity to put a work session on the schedule. So it wouldn't be, so even though the model rule says the city manager can schedule that, what the language is proposed here is that the city council or the city manager could schedule those work sessions. But otherwise, this is
There's
The wording's on.
called is missing.
Yeah. That's
It
what I-
says work sessions may be by the city council or city manager.
maybe called. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Called by the city council or the city manager.
So we're not allowed to make decisions in work sessions anymore like executives?
We never were.
Oh, we weren't?
I don't
Right.
know when that changed.
Right. So that's it's an area where sometimes cities get a little off track, into not just cities, but other public entities can get a little off track in the practice, but work sessions are specifically designed to be discussion, not necessarily or not including decisions. So the way that we had talked about structuring that was having 2 business meetings a month and potentially scheduling a work session to be included as part of one of those meetings. So the work session is still, it's basically, it can be either used as you use your discussion items where you're not making a decision, you're just hearing information, discussing, working towards a decision that you might make in the future. Or this provision is really meant to cover when you would need a special work session for something other than a discussion item. So like the work session that we did previously for the council rules, where you need some time to really dig into an issue and you want to have a meeting that's specific to that, but not make a decision. Rod, I see you have, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
My question is can we do, so for example, there have been times over the last years where we've had to have a decision done before the end of the month. Can we have 2 meetings, say a special meeting and a work session on the same night?
Yes, so this, it's not, this is, a work session just describes what this section just describes what happens at a work session. It doesn't change your rules with respect to scheduling emergency meetings, special meetings, regular meetings, where you actually conduct business.
Yeah, Savani, that's where we've gotten off track, is that we put decision items inside a work session because we had to get stuff done. But if we can just close one and open the next one, then that streamlines our time.
Yep. And the only differences there would be if you have a work session scheduled, then you need to add a special meeting or an emergency meeting, then we would notice that appropriately and have both on the same day.
I believe we did that at the end of either September or October. Brian had an item come up that was time sensitive. We didn't want to wait, because it was a month that had 5 Wednesdays in it. So we didn't want to wait another 2 weeks. So we scheduled a special meeting at 5:45 to approve that, and then went into the work session at the regular 6 p.m. meeting time. So that as Savani said, as long as it's as long as it's noticed properly, no concern there at all.
Okay.
I think by the nature of how we've put quote unquote work sessions on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock, we have kind of treated them as regular meetings, but operated within them as though they were work sessions. So there's kind of like a work session kind of component built into kind of coming in as though it's a regular meeting. That's kind of thrown it off a bit. I think we've treated it more as a nomenclature, factor as like what we call it as opposed to how we actually operate with it.
So on this one, it would be good for us to have kind of just a sense of council's preference, whether we want to go with the amendment to the existing language is just clarifying that council is not permitted to take a formal or final action in the work session, or if we'd like the more specific language from the League of Oregon Cities model rules with the adjustments that we've made to tailor it to the city.
I like it like this.
I do.
Like which?
The red.
Yeah,
How do
okay.
you write in?
Yeah, I like the red better.
I like
The
the red.
alternative form. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the reason why I really like decisions not being planned as part of work sessions and really being intentional about that too is that it creates a safe space for brainstorming, for conceptually.
That's what it used to be.
And I
It used to be wonderful.
Yeah.
Because that's where you got your information and you shared all your information and you dug in stuff and then you asked questions about stuff and it was awesome.
I think it all just got.
I felt a lot more prepared back then when we had work sessions.
Yeah, because I think just the ability to come in and have, like, there are no bad ideas in brainstorming.
Right.
You know, when you have a decision on the table, the stakes are higher. There's, it tends to be easier to get contentious rather than just kind of recognizing that you're there just to forward the discussion. So I like this alternative language a lot.
Any other comments on that piece? Okay. And then the next revisions are down in the order of business. This is page 9 relating to public comment. So starting with section B, these revisions are just meant to track the discussion that council had where we clarified that public comment is invited for both items not on the agenda, and we do that at the beginning of the meeting with certain timeframes, and also for decision items. So public comment shall also be allowed for all decisions before the council that require a vote at a time to be determined by the presiding officer.
So I have a issue with that paragraph. If we make it so that it cannot exceed a maximum of 30 minutes, if we have a packed house like we have seen this last year, it's gonna limit how many people can get up and comment.
Unless a majority of the councilors present vote to extend the time.
Okay.
We've actually had that in
30 minutes or 3 minutes?
Hold on. So 3 minutes per person, but a cumulative 30 minutes.
Oh,
We've actually had that provision in our city council rules for a long time. We've just not observed it.
No, I know,
Yeah,
I know it's not red. That's why I just saw that. I'm like, wait.
I have actually observed this happening. This is before I was actually on council. I was from the audience and we had a packed house and they actually voted to extend the time for the for the public comment period. So that's just how it's built.
I think it's good. And I think I'd like to see something similar for decision items as well. Because then it also kind of keeps that sort of limit when we do get to a decision item that's perhaps more contentious or whatever, we do create some boundaries that we have to vote to extend. So having the 30-minute maximum for the public comment on items not on the agenda, I'd like to see that replicated on the decision items aspect as well, so that we're not kind of finding ourselves in a position where we're trying to enforce a policy like that isn't stated. And similarly, I think I would like to see under F decision item, I think I'd like to see a more clearly defined place in the decision item where the public comment will be allowed. So for instance, and this isn't anything other than what it is, but at the discretion of the presiding officer just kind of leaves it so that in theory that could happen after a motion has been offered, it could happen before we discuss it, it could happen after we discuss it. I think placing it so that if we have, say, whatever the introduction to the topic is from whoever has brought the decision item to us, and then it's clearly stated here that the order of where the discussion will be and when public comment will be accepted, I think that creates a better sort of place that the public will feel that their contributions are being honored.
So there, and maybe this is one area where we can clarify the rules. So there's a separate section that has additional rules for public comment that does, and this may or may not be as specific as you're requesting, Councilor Keating, but there is a separate section that states that public comment for items on the agenda will occur after the staff report and council discussion, but before any action is taken. So that may or may not be where you want it, or we might have to add
That's
some
right.
specificity.
I remember that now that you mention it. I think my only thought would be, I'd kind of rather hear from the public before council discusses it. Just so that we're not, I mean, I don't know.
I think one of the reasons that it's wishy-washy though is because sometimes during our discussions, that's when they have their ideas.
Yeah.
And we just recognize and allow them to speak. So I think that's what
I think it could go like
this wording means.
Yes, I'm sorry,
It's
Rod.
just not well worded.
Rod, did you want to add something or
Yeah.
address something?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I definitely agree with Andrew on this, like have it at a specific point. But Jackie brings up what has happened over and over in our council meetings is that if we have a staff report, then we discuss, and then we'll have somebody in the audience say, yeah, but what about blank? So I'd like to leave it open, but it has to be before we vote. And people have to have a chance for rebuttal. It's probably it's more like, I want it to run more like a land use. If you understand what I'm getting at, it doesn't have to be that in depth, but we have staff report, then we have proponent, opponent, other interested parties. We don't have to go through all of that, but just have staff report, opportunity for people to speak at that point, and then opportunity for people to speak after we deliberate and before a motion.
I agree with Rod, because I think that one of our primary objectives is to make sure that we have every opportunity to hear from the public.
Exactly.
And this gives us more leverage in doing so.
Madam President, just a quick question.
Yes.
I know that the meetings, Oregon meetings law states that you can have 5 minutes during this portion of addressing agenda items. Is that a time frame that those would be acceptable for their initial comments and rebuttal? A combined 5 minutes or 5 minutes each time?
That might be hard to track because we've got a lot of people wanting to talk and then they talk and then come back. Our city recorder is going to be over there fumbling with his fingers trying to write down.
My understanding is that whatever amount of time you offer has to be equally available to all citizens. So I was actually going to suggest that under 212 public comment, I was going to suggest that D, each person desiring to comment shall be limited to 3 minutes. I think we could do without that because we can set that. I don't know that I want in this policy for a specific number to be stated, because we can set that agenda to agenda if we feel like a topic might warrant more time or less time or whatever. That having 3 minutes in this document sets us to that, but we can, as long as we're making sure we're providing equal opportunity for public comment, we can set that number from meeting to meeting.
Now, Andrew, keep in mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, Savani, but I believe that we as a council, if we are presented with that problem, we could actually vote as a council to ignore the time requirement or to lift the time requirement on public comment for a certain situation.
You could do that. We could also set out that kind of there's a default time unless the council specifies otherwise by consensus or by a vote.
Yeah.
Rod?
So we could say standard is 3 minutes, and if the council votes to extend that time per person.
Well, maybe what we could do is each person desiring to comment shall be limited to 3 minutes unless the council sets otherwise or determines otherwise.
Extends.
Are we allowed to extend for an individual?
No, we would have to do it for everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the way that was stated made me think that.
No.
Well,
Like
and I'm
if
glad
we
you
were
said that,
able
because
to
then it needs to be
extend-
stated differently.
Yeah.
Extended 2 minutes for a certain
Right.
topic, but not the next one.
Right.
So to give some context, so if somebody is cut off at the 3 minute mark, and then the next person who gets up to speak is allowed to go to 4 minutes, technically, we are supposed to give the first person an extra
Another
minute to speak.
Right. So, one of the things that I think needs to be in here, just so we have it in writing, is testimony has to be done germane to the topic. So that when people go off on a tangent, we have something in writing that says we can rein them back to the actual topic.
Okay.
I thought that was covered by items on the agenda.
Well, Tracy, I know you've been here long enough. You've had our public comments on items, how shall we say this, go awry because they've gone off topic and into other
Well,
areas.
that's lovely Christmas display, right? Anybody that's had a conversation with me gets it.
Yeah.
No comment.
But you guys understand what I'm driving at.
Yes.
Because that's what you do in a land use hearing. They have to stay germane to the topics within the law.
So do
And
you
I
want to
don't
put that
want it to be-
vocabulary in there?
No, I don't want it to be that specific, but I want to, germane to the topic. That's all I'm really asking for. In other words, if you slide off into a personal attack on somebody, no, we're bringing you back. If you slide off into, this was how it was done 50 years ago, okay, how does that apply now? And I would ask that question, and then if they can't, then we have to move on.
And that's for items on the agenda.
Right. Yeah. No, public comment at the beginning, that you can come in and say essentially whatever you want, other than threats.
Okay. We'll get some language in there.
Well, I'm wondering if we could just add another one, like move D to E and put that as D. Public comment for items on the agenda must remain germane to the topic. And just slip that in. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but
I'm good with the language. I'm good with putting language like that in here. I think the one kind of caution that comes up for me is I don't want to necessarily say that I'm speaking only for myself here, feel comfortable with determining what the person who is presenting their public comment considers relevant. It feels like a certain judgment call. Obviously, there are going to be the way outside the parameters of the topic at hand that are super clear that this is not related at all. We're talking about, say, purchasing a new vehicle for the police department, and the public comment is about the Christmas decorations. Okay, that's super obvious. But if the way that they're talking about Christmas decorations is related to, say, city spending and where we put our budget, they see a connection even if I don't. I just kind of want to offer that one concern that I have is when somebody is coming up, when we are having a conversation about something, anything, and somebody decides to get out of their chair and come to the microphone, I want to honor that they believe it's a relevant topic. And it's a tough line for me to cross.
Well, I'm hoping that I would at least ask for y'all's input in whether or not I rein them in. In other words, if there's at least 4 of you that think they're way far afield, then we rein them in.
I don't think it's wrong to ask them to clarify how they see the connection.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I would ask to start with. Okay, if I see them going down a rabbit hole, okay, how is this germane to what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And they'll bring it back, or they'll make their point, and I'm good with that. The thing I don't want to have happen, okay, is in these testimonies, if you will, someone goes out and attacks one of our staff members. Okay, that's what I don't want to have happen. Does that make sense to y'all?
And you don't want somebody who comes up and uses the public comment time for every decision item to talk about the same thing over and over again and just get their 3 minutes, get another 3 minutes, get another 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's
why I think, that's why I'd like to have something in writing, right? To back us up when we say, you need to come back to the topic. Just, you nailed it on the head. We don't want someone who just a serial testimonier, I guess. I don't know how you put it.
Another addition that I'd like to make is that in the section, which can, I think, be part of the same provision, is that speakers need to address the presiding officer. So this is also not a time to comment with staff. And I understand that in practice, sometimes staff may have a question or a clarification and the speaker says, thank you. That's not really what we're talking about here. We're trying to avoid the situation where people are coming in to make a complaint to staff when this is a time for public comment to the council.
Can I also offer a suggestion that we include something for city council not to interrupt public comment? We sometimes have the habit of turning it into a discussion, and that gets into cutting off the 3 minutes we are allowing them. And so perhaps council should not address the person providing public comment until their comment is complete or the time has elapsed, something along those lines that puts a kind of guardrail on us to make sure that we're not cutting into their 3 minutes. I don't know if council agrees with that.
I thought there was one.
There is one, it's under
Oh, there is.
B. It's just not worded as much as Andrew probably would like. It says public comment time is a time for comment. It is not time for debate, nor is it a time for members of the public to ask questions of and receive answers from the council or city staff.
And I tend to think of that as, I thought of that as more for their intentions or what expectations we have of them as opposed to what expectations they should have from us.
And that might be true, but we also are expected to know our own rules, even if, oh, I guess these are the rules, but I have no problem putting some sort of language in there that says this is not a time for council to interact, or nor is it a time for council to.
I should say, I'm only.
Well, it's just, after their 3 minutes.
It feels a little bit like we're trying to legislate courtesy.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is just be like good people
Courteous.
and not
Right?
interrupt people.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yes, but the part I'm actually concerned about is the public meeting law aspect, which is the equal time to all public comment. So if we interrupt even for 1 second and then we cut them off at 3 minutes, they've only gotten 2 minutes and 59 seconds.
So risk I'm comfortable with.
So, you do have a section on decorum, which we haven't gotten to yet, but section B6 in that, which is on page 16, the last provision there says the council shall preserve decorum during meetings and shall not by conversation or action delay or interrupt the proceedings. We could add or public comment there, just to clarify. Or we could talk about
I
it.
agree with Eric. It's common courtesy. We need to learn to be a little more appropriate up from this dais. All of us do. So that's something that we can work on and police each other on. Or allow our esteemed city manager to help us.
Other duties as assigned.
Right. I'd only add to that these rules aren't for the 7 of us.
They are for the 7 of us.
No, they are for the council, the body of government, regardless of who is in these chairs. So we're not making rules for the 7 of us. We're making the rules for whomever
Okay,
sits
Andrew.
here.
That's
Well,
okay.
that's,
It's not about our intents, or it's not about kind of how we see ourselves behaving. It's that a year from now, we could have 3, 4 different people up here who weren't part of this process.
Do these still not apply to us? Just so we're not making these arrests anymore at all? We don't have to do any of this?
They apply to us
They
and
apply to
every,
us and anybody after us.
Until they change.
my intention was misunderstood and I will
It was, I'm
withdraw.
sorry, do you want to reword it? I'm happy to hear. I don't want to cut you off and I want you to be able to get your point across.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I can appreciate our intentions as human beings to be good, courteous, wonderful people and to work better together and work better with the public. But the rules that I'm thinking about and how we phrase them are designed more about regardless of who is in these chairs, whether it's us or it's somebody else. And so having guardrails on certain things feel appropriate when I'm thinking about the unknown whomever is sitting in these chairs a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, because these haven't been updated in 5-6 years.
but I'm sure that out of 7, there's only gonna be a couple cavemen.
On page 16, members of the
Most
city
of us
council
are
will, 1, be respectful towards fellow council members, staff, guests, and members of the public. Is interrupting somebody respectful?
No.
Okay. Be well informed and participate in the decisions of the council. Okay, I think we can have that down. Attend city council meetings, we've got that. I think that what you're wanting is in there, it's just not specifically worded. So if there's some way you feel we need to specifically word it, can you come back to us with that?
Yeah, and I think I'm still only speaking to interactions during public comment and making sure that, again, it's about how we honor the person who's speaking and their right to the full 3 minutes, that even if the questions are handled respectfully, if they come up here with the expectation that, and we've seen this plenty of times where folks who don't necessarily understand the rules themselves from the public come in with the expectation that we're going to answer questions that they have, that the second we say something to them, we are altering their time. So I'm not talking about kind of our decorum with each other. I'm not talking about our decorum with staff, with members of the public as they're in the audience. I'm talking about the very specific public comment period that is governed by public meeting law, and making sure that we have something in our rules that reflects that. And if we feel like that is satisfactorily covered in the language we have right now, I'm great with that. I just wanted to raise that I don't personally feel like it's covered as clearly as I would like.
Okay. Rod, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the things that governing bodies tend to do, and we've been guilty of this as anyone else has, we're trying to get to perfect, and unfortunately we never will. And if we can get to the very good, which the way our rules in this particular part are laid out, I think it'll work. The question is, do we make sure that everybody knows those rules? And when you're seated on this council, here are your rules, and these are the rules you need to quote unquote act by. And Andrew, if you say it to whoever the new person is, first day they're on the job, please do. Okay, to make sure that we're all on that same page.
And the one thing that I would add to the discussion is, Councilor Keating mentioned a moment ago about, when a person comes to the microphone, they're giving public comment. It's perfectly within the norm of public comment and council's discretion, even if there's a question, to not respond to it, right? To take the comment and say, thank you very much. Who's next? You also do have the discretion as a council, if you feel like, wow, this question is important, it's germane to, one of the topics on our tracker, something like that, that you do have the opportunity to engage. And so I think that there's kind of to what the mayor was saying about the perfect, it's really difficult to write a rule that covers both. Right? You want to give yourself that opportunity. You don't want to write yourself into a corner and say council can never respond, because we want to honor the 3 minutes as good as that intention is. You don't want to write yourself into that rule that you'd be breaking your rules to respond to a question. But you don't want to not address being respectful to the public and ensuring that they get the value of their time. And that's oftentimes, if there's a question and, then the presiding officer, whoever is presiding at that meeting, can say, council's not prepared to respond to that question. Your time continues. Do you have anything more for us? Something like that. So it really comes down to how you want to frame, as the mayor said, there might not be the perfect, it's the very good, and how you want to frame that, and then the discretion then falls to the presiding officer. So
I wonder if it would be helpful. I mean, we get people in here that are just, they're old pros at public comment. And then there are others that have never done it before, that if we let them know what the rules are, this
Have
is
like a quick sheet as they come in the door, they sign their name and pick up the sheet. quick little council,
Even if
just
it's
an
right
outline of the
microphone.
rules,
Yes.
just a little one-page thing or a half-page card.
Paul's actually working on one.
Even just have something right at the microphone too.
You know, this is what I find things too. I'll ask Rich a question. I'll call him at, like, it popped in my head out of the blue. Yeah, I've been working on that for weeks. And then, or Paul's already doing something, so it's like,
Well, so I think that's going to help a lot. And the other, I was thinking about Amber's public comments, and she clearly just said, any questions?
actually, she wasn't in public comment.
It was a
Oh, it wasn't?
She was a
presentation.
presentation.
Never
That's why the
mind.
difference.
Yeah, and,
It's hard to tell sometimes, truly.
and what I was,
I'm
what I
glad
was
I knew
gonna,
that, I forgot.
what I was gonna add is, you know, I've been visiting city council meetings from several other cities over the past couple of weeks, and one of the things that I noticed is that they have, you know, kind of in their rules and in the way that they conduct their meetings, when they do get a public comment that might drive a desire for an actual discussion with that person, what I've seen a couple of times now is that somebody will move to amend the agenda for a discussion that would include them. So it's kind of inviting them to a later discussion item so that you're taking it out of the public comment portion, and still kind of leaving public comment to the 3 minutes public comment, no dialogue, it's merely us receiving information. And I thought that was a really good system that they had that kind of allowed for them to have a clear and obvious path to, you know, engaging with somebody who comes up.
We've done that before too.
Yeah.
Savani, would it make sense to have something expressly in the rules that, you know, spoke to what Councilor Keating just mentioned of, you know, council has the ability to, you know, amend the agenda to add a discussion item related to something that comes up from public comment, and obviously, you know, you'd wordsmith that a little bit, but would that make sense to be something that would be in the rules, do you think?
Don't we already have the ability?
We have
do
the
have the
ability to
ability.
change
Yeah, we have
the
It's just
agenda.
not.
The reason I asked that question, I go back to, you know, Councilor Keating's comment a moment ago. You all know that, right? In 5 years, 3 of you or 4 of you, a majority of you seats may have changed. So that's also kind of how I look at the rules, as he said, and I'll add a word to his original statement. These rules aren't just for you, but for, you know, your successors as well. So if it's not something that you feel is expressly stated in the rules, even if you 6 that are up there and the mayor on the screen know that you have that ability, it still might be worthwhile having in a written document.
And one of the things that I think is really important here is that these rules are what the public will look at to understand how they can engage with us. We've seen over this last year a lot of criticism across the county and here specifically in Toledo that have referenced our documents with regard to what is allowed. And so part of my desire to see some things written out here is also a little bit of a transparency thing. It's about helping with that civic education, to Jackie's point a little bit, that if somebody does want to understand how our city council meetings work, how they can bring public comment. You know, my idea of putting a guardrail in for us is also about showing them outside of this room where our boundaries are. You know, it's about helping them to hold us accountable.
Oh, wait, wrong, great.
So I appreciate the conversation. I just wanted to raise it.
Savani, do you want to move us along?
Yes, okay, so I can add that section that council may vote to amend the agenda to include a discussion item for the initial public comment period, or request that it be brought back at a later date for discussion. And that brings us through public comment on decision items. You'll see another change in section 2.8 item C, which is page 10, just to address a potential privacy concern. So I know for a long time cities had, or you come to a public meeting, you state your address. That's not necessary. And so we just would recommend taking that out for privacy reasons. Members of the public can indicate whether they're a resident of the city or not. And then for people who are speaking about a particular property, that information would be still relevant. So we just are recommending that change.
I like city of residence. Like, I've seen that, I saw that in several meetings and I really like.
I like
And
that.
And the only thing I add to that for discussion, and not that it's germane to every comment, but just thinking recently, for example, about the fire that we had on Sunny Ridge, I believe that the event was inside the city limits, but it was within the boundaries of, it's not, thank you, Brian. So it's outside the city limits, and outside our fire response area. It was within the East Lincoln Fire District. But those boundaries, they appear on a map, they don't appear on the ground, right? And so you think about residents who have an address that says Toledo, Oregon, but they're outside the city limits. Now that's only germane if what they're wanting to speak to, just as an example that comes off the top of my head, is why is my water bill twice as much as the person across the street from me? Well, that person's inside the city limits. So when somebody comes up and says, hi, my name is Joe Smith, I'm a resident of Toledo, they may not be a resident of the city limits, but if you ask them to state their city, they're going to say Toledo. And again, that only comes up if it pertains to a difference between city and county, but just throwing that out there.
Well, and there's also so East Lincoln County and Toledo being separate entities is new too. So
Correct.
it used to be that Toledo would respond there. That was within our area.
Right.
And so that's a big change and people are gonna have to are starting to get used to it. And or are just becoming aware of it. Some people aren't even aware of that.
And to add complexity, using again the fire as an example, to your point, Council President, it would have been in the past that there would have been automatic response. One of the things that I've been learning in my discussions with Chief Lapoff and Deputy Chief Robeson is there's a difference between automatic response and mutual aid. Automatic response, which is an agreement between agencies. Automatic response is the call goes out and every agency who has that automatic response agreement responds automatically. Mutual aid is that the agency that is primary, so Sunny Ridge is an example, that was East Lincoln Fire. Mutual aid means that agency gets to decide when and what agencies are, in their parlance, toned out. And so, to your point, Council President, until recently, Toledo and East Lincoln had an automatic response relationship where we would respond as soon as that call went out.
It was the same tone now, that was it, and have they their own tone now?
They are, yes. So that in the instance of the Sunny Ridge Fire as an example, Toledo, in the initial call, Toledo was inadvertently from the dispatch center was toned, and that's why they responded. They were the first on scene, but ordinarily they would not be until East Lincoln Fire requested over the radio that response.
Mutual aid.
Mutual aid, exactly. And so to your point about where those lines are, so I do believe that going back to the initial topic, asking for city of residence as just a general identifier makes perfect sense. I just wanted to bring up for conversation that there's those times where somebody may say they're Toledo, but what they're then going to speak to may actually not be pertinent to the city's operation.
I think the folks who are going to say that they're from Toledo are people who identify with Toledo
As a Toledoan.
as our services, who show up at our events, things like that. Perhaps, but one of the things, I mean, it's not like, growing up in New England, everybody's saying they're from Boston. But I think one of the things that really stood out to me when I attended that town hall special meeting in Newport around the ice facility, the helicopter, everything that was happening where they had 800 people show up. One of the things that I really appreciated as a neighboring city council was clocking every time somebody said, I'm from Toledo, I'm from Wolfport, I'm from the city. They were showing up at that event. So Frank, I think a lot about when we were having that special meeting ourselves, and you were mentioning how, like, in Newport, they had hundreds of people show up to say how they felt about ICE and the helicopter, but we didn't really have that. One of the things that crossed my mind after that discussion was we kind of did, because they all showed up there. So many of the people who live here, who work there, who are connected to Toledo, went to where they felt that the conversation was happening. And I think the same thing can happen here sometimes, or at least, we are able to, when we watch some of those larger events happening in neighboring cities, there's a nice little value to seeing our people show up in Newport and say they care about something, because that can help us steer the ship a little bit too.
Rod?
So what I'm thinking is that on the sign-up sheet, we have check boxes. One is resident of Toledo. One is receive city services from Toledo, because we have a lot of folks that receive water and or sewer from outside our city limits. So that puts them directly adjacent, and probably those are the people that consider themselves Toledoans. Okay, and then like a third box, just East County, and a fourth box, other.
I can tell you that I grew up outside of Toledo. I grew up down Schleck Road. And I considered myself a Toledo resident,
That's my point. That's because if you're
even if I wasn't in city boundaries or anything. Yeah, sorry, Rod.
No, you're right. You're spot on, Tracy, because I know a lot of people, especially those that receive our services, consider them Toledo, for lack of a better word, Toledo residents.
So
Okay, but technically they're not.
So on the actual language, what if it just said, they'll indicate whether they reside within the city limits of Toledo? And then it would answer that question.
Well, the problem is, I'm betting half the people don't know what our limits are.
And
that's why I said that. Because if you have, if you're outside the city limits and receiving our water or sewer, because it's double the cost. Okay, so in that point, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I agree.
They know the difference.
I don't think the council rules are like where they're going to learn whether or not they're in the city limits. I mean, the best we can do is ask them to guess at whether or not they're in the city. And
I know. I'm just trying to come up with a way to clarify that between resident and someone who really cares about what goes on here.
Yes.
Well, I feel like this is becoming a little exclusionary too. We have a lot of people that live right outside our city limits that have a lot to do with our town. And I don't want to develop language that makes them feel like their voice isn't important too.
I know, but how do we, okay, so if a person just signs in, then are they okay?
Just sign in, say what city you live in, and I don't care if you live inside or outside of Toledo. I want to hear from you.
But what do you say if you live in the county?
Well, I don't care about the county.
And I think that
Jackie Kaufman has something she wants to say.
Don't we care about what they want to say, not where they're coming from?
Thank you.
I don't care if you're a visitor from Germany. If you have a concern about our stop sign at the corner of Main Street, come on down. I don't care if you're from France.
Yeah,
you got something to say, come to the meeting. Who cares where they're from?
I absolutely agree with that. And I think there's also an important difference between the sign-up sheet and what is stated for the record into the microphone, right?
Right.
So I personally, and I think that we're perhaps conflating the two a little bit in this discussion. And so I think if the sign-up sheet, we require them to put their name. We don't necessarily require them to put anything else. We can have a couple of optional fields for them to fill out.
Yep.
But we do require that anybody who gets up to the microphone needs to start by stating their name and their city of residence. Let them interpret how they how they state their city of residence. But I think that that's a different point from what we do with the sign-up sheet. And I think if address is on the sign-up sheet, if whatever else, can be on there, put your address as an option. I think the sign-up sheet is a different thing than what I think is a really, really important factor, which is that people watching the video later on, or any of the minutes or the recordings or whatever, they don't get the sign-up sheet necessarily. I don't know if they do or not. But I think it's more to me about the transcript, it's more about the recording, and I think that stating city of residence is enough. Let the form this.
I think that.
I was just gonna say, I agree that there needs to be separation between what you say at the mic and what you can put on the sign-up sheet. Okay, well, and because here's why. I think you can put on the sign-up sheet a way to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
So that if you do come in with questions, then staff who may not know you will be able to get in touch with you and answer some of your questions.
That's great.
So Savani,
Wordsmithing this to death.
Okay, so I think that, so as a practical matter, I think the sign-up sheet, whatever information is useful to staff, that's helpful to have on there. It's a practical matter in your rules. City of residence works for all the reasons that you've been discussing, that you want to hear from anyone, no matter where they live or where they interpret that they live. And the only time that matters as a practical reason is for the water bill issue. Why is my property being treated this way? But you could ask the person then. If staff has a question about, well, where exactly are you located? That's an appropriate opportunity to ask a clarifying question from a member of the public.
if
Or
they're
follow
asking
up
about their
with
water bills, they're gonna give us their address, and then that's gonna tell us where they are.
Right.
So.
Right. And then legally, the only time that this really matters is when you're having a public hearing that your address determines whether you have standing to participate in that discussion. So those are really legally, there's very few times where you need their exact address. Practically, it might be a few more times, but in terms of most public comment, you want to hear what they have to say, and it matters less where they are living.
And I'll just add very quickly that, there was an example when my previous city, we had a resident of the city of Sela who came to speak to us about a safety concern that she had at an intersection. Well, it turns out that the intersection was just on the other side of the city limits. And so oftentimes the topic that you're hearing from somebody, it may be somebody who lives in the city limits, but what they came to speak to you about is outside, or vice versa. And so I agree. The city of residence really is just kind of a helpful point of reference, but then whether it's something that you have, whether it's something that's within your sphere of influence really depends on what their topic is.
Before we move on, would anybody like to take a 5-minute break? Does anybody need to take a potty break or anything? We're good? Brian?
I'd love to. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I'm down 2 bottles sitting here.
Okay. Does anybody mind if we call a 5-minute recess? No? Okay, I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess. We'll return. It is, I don't know what.
7:50.
It's 7:50 and we are going to return to our city council meeting.
Okay, can I make a request that we kind of speed through this, otherwise we're gonna be here till tomorrow?
Yeah.
Can't wordsmith everything, it's gonna come back to us anyway, so try and get the majority of our stuff done, if we can.
Savani, would you like to take over and continue walking us through this document?
Yes. Okay, so moving on from the residence piece, the next one is 2.10 motions. This is item 6 on page 11. Basically, this isn't making any significant substantive changes to the way that the city's already approving resolutions and ordinances, but it does specify that if there are substantive changes to a proposed ordinance, that the council is going to direct staff to make those amendments and then bring it back at a later date. And then substantive changes to a resolution, you can direct, you may do that. So the reason for that change is to allow the public to have the full text of the ordinance available to them within the required notice period. If this is going to be approved, as most cities are doing it now, which is just reading by title at 2 meetings rather than reading in full.
Savani Rod, okay, sir.
Just real quick, Savani, I greatly appreciate this delineation you're making between will and may. I think that works better for us going forward, especially because of the various reasons you've said already about doing ordinances. But a lot of things we will amend the resolution by just one sentence. And we can do that right there and keep it going forward. I greatly appreciate this delineation you've made within our council rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on that? Okay. We already talked about public comment. 2.12, that was the next major change. And then I believe, oh, you will see in your decorum rules 3.2, we deleted section C because that relates to the ordinance and resolution issue that we just discussed. So we just took it out of that section, put it in a more appropriate section. And then the last, chapter 5, other boards and committees. The other boards and committees provision was not clear in who does the appointing. So this is section 5.1E, which is on page 21. Currently says that the mayor and the mayor's sole discretion or with consent of the council may appoint other council committees and define the purpose, duration. So it should be one or the other. Either it's the mayor's sole discretion or the mayor with consent of the council. Based on how the council operates, consent of the council seems more appropriate. Of course, the risk there is that you don't have consent of the council, or what does that mean? So it's an easier, quicker decision if it's just the mayor, but based on how the council operates, consent of council felt more appropriate, but I'd be happy to.
I prefer with consent to the council, that way we keep those checks and balances in place.
I agree.
The mayor heartily agrees.
Okay. And then the last one is in 5.2, adding a section B relating to council compensation. And so we're just putting in place a process that council can waive their compensation if they wish to, whether that's at the regular meeting in January or via a written request to the city manager at any other time. And then I know that there was a suggestion that if a councilor wishes to revoke their council compensation waiver, that they need to do that 45 days in advance and make an appropriate announcement at the next regular city council meeting. And that, unless there are comments or questions on that, that's all we have for the council rules.
Thank you, Savani.
Thank you.
And then would you like me to go through the charter?
Yes, please.
Okay, so charter, the first, other than formatting, capitalization, consistency, those kind of edits, the first substantive edit is in 4.1, appoint of officers, subsection C, which is on page 5. And that is just clarifying that the offices of city manager and municipal judge and city attorney may not be combined with other offices. So if you hold one of those offices, that's the only office that you would hold for the city. We could be more specific and say that if you hold one of those offices, you may not hold any other one of those offices. But it's difficult to imagine a situation where you would want the city manager to be another officer in the city and not run into the multiple hats problem that we discussed in the last session.
It's essentially to say that if, well, how does that play with interim, though, I guess is my question. So if,
If we decided that we wanted our library director to be our interim city manager, does that prevent that person from holding both positions?
No, it just.
I'm going to clarify that this is appointive offices in the text there, because that was really the intent, that the council can make so the 3 appointed officers are city manager, municipal judge, and city attorney. The council can decide to have another officer that is on that same level as an appointive officer.
I thought that was the intention. It may not be combined with other offices is why I
Right. Yeah. So thank you for that. And I'll clarify it to other appointive officers to match what we intended there.
Thank you.
And Savani, one additional point I would make there is, I'll leave the wordsmithing to you, but it may be, you may want to say it that council can't combine offices to which they directly appoint, because to Andrew's point, Councilor Keating, the city manager appoints the library director. So council can, if there's a need for an interim, council can appoint the library director as interim city manager. They couldn't appoint the library director as interim city manager and interim city attorney. So however you want to word that, but that's what popped to my head, was those are the offices of which council appoints as opposed to the city manager's appointed authority.
Rod?
There we go. I just wanted to make sure, because I think the thing that we were driving at, and you guys can all tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I think one of the things we were driving at was to get out of the idea of, if we do have a city manager leave for whatever reason, we immediately go to looking for an interim. And we can do what Lincoln City did, which was they looked first in-house. They did a 2-week, and you could apply. If you were already in-house, you could be their city manager pro tem until they got to their regular either interim city manager or hired a direct city manager. What I think we were all talking about was having the assistant city manager in-house already because of the situation that we just went through. Am I wrong?
I thought it was for a different reason. I thought it was because one of the problems that we had and we saw was at times, like we appointed our city attorney to city manager duties. And that was a no-no. We saw Lincoln City do the same thing, and we discussed how it was a conflict and how it's not a best practice. And this prohibits that. And that's what we were shooting for.
This was about saying that of the 3 appointed positions, municipal judge, city attorney, and city manager, no one person could hold 2 of them.
And that's good. I just want to make sure we cover that other side of it somewhere in here. And I'm not sure that we have.
And I think the mayor's point is a good one too, in kind of correlating with Councilor Keating's point, is previously you had one position that reported to the city manager that had that additional title of assistant city manager. And that person by default became your interim city manager when the city manager position fell vacant. And in Councilmember Keating's example, he mentioned maybe we wanted to appoint the library director. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at as we are recruiting for our finance director, is that all of the department heads are on equal footing, that there won't be a specific assistant city manager, as the mayor said, so that if you have that position where we need an interim city manager and we want to go in-house, you as council have the discretion to appoint any of your department heads rather than automatically one based on a title.
You took a much more interesting meaning than what I was going for.
Oh, okay.
The reason I used the library director was more that I wasn't trying to draw a particular parallel to our own circumstances of a year ago.
Sure.
But it was really more just the vagueness of the term may not be combined with other offices that gave a suggestion to me that somebody couldn't be serving as library director and interim city manager, or finance director and interim city manager, or anything like that, because other offices was too vague.
Agreed. Yep.
So the other thing we have to keep in mind here, everything we change here has to go to our constituents, and if we make it too confusing, I guarantee people are gonna vote no, because they're not gonna understand it.
Okay, let me take another look at this language. I understand the intent is that we don't want the city manager and city attorney to be the same person, or municipal judge.
And I think to Frank's point, I'd only say that one nice thing is that we do get to provide a paragraph explanation of the substantial changes that we're making. And we probably are going to, we're not making the sweeping changes that we did a year ago. And so I think part of the reason why it was such a close vote was because of how many big changes were all bundled into one yes/no vote.
Right. And I agree with that too. I just don't want to confuse our people out there, because
I feel like the changes we're making are much more like housekeeping that won't face the same type of controversy, which is nice.
We'll move on to the next bullet point. Savani?
Yes. Great. Okay, so just a couple more here. We added in subsection G of section 4.2 relating to the pro tem city manager, that the city manager pro tem may appoint or remove employees, adding or volunteers only with council approval, and that the city manager pro tem need not reside within Lincoln County based on council's discussion. Okay. And then the final change is in the council's legislative authority with respect to ordinances. This is tracking the model charter in terms of how those are approved. That adoption of an ordinance requires approval by the majority of city council at 2 meetings. And then it leaves alone the council's ability to adopt the ordinance at a single meeting with unanimous approval, provided that the ordinance is available in writing to the public at least 1 week before. So this is just removing the requirement to read in full and allowing adoption at 2 meetings. And that's it.
Thank you, Savani.
pretty much.
Okay. I think there's one more thing we need to go over. The what was it?
The strategic.
Okay, but that's not till later, I guess. That's right. Do you want to? No.
Oh, yes. And then,
no, let's go ahead and keep it in order. Thank you for that.
After your review of the city charter, Council President, I just had a line item for the city attorney to provide a quick update on what she's learned related to potential options for the helicopter relocation litigation.
Okay. So, rescue helicopter relocation litigation update.
okay, so where the litigation is currently is that the parties have fully briefed and argued for a preliminary injunction. And so that the temporary restraining order was the order that kept the helicopter there for 2 weeks. That was extended for another 2 weeks. And now the court is considering whether that same action will continue throughout the course of the litigation. So the parties are waiting for a ruling on that. That means at this point that there is no additional pending briefing. There's no immediate opportunity for the city to become involved in a formal way. And if the city did want to become in a formal way, then I would recommend that we have that discussion in executive session. But I can say that based on some of the information that is publicly available, based on Lincoln County's position specifically, that there are the kind of governmental perspective is represented with Lincoln County being a party. And I believe Newport submitted an amicus brief. And I know that the state legislators have also been actively participating and watching and commenting on this situation, and have taken it as kind of a win that the Coast Guard seems to have agreed to put the helicopter back there. I understand from the publicly available information that Lincoln County and the parties that are in the litigation are still concerned that there is a need for this judicial action, so that the lawsuit still needs to move forward. The Coast Guard, it hasn't yet said, or is still fighting the preliminary injunction. So the Coast Guard, and meaning the federal government, is still fighting against a court order requiring them to keep the helicopter there. And so I think that if the city wants to be aligned with those parties, then just keeping track of that narrative, keeping track of what what is actually happening in the lawsuit, and then being able to communicate that with constituents and in the ways that the council formally speaks. And then I will also say that the council's resolution on this topic, because it's a public document, that may well get picked up and used in the litigation, because it is a formal statement by the city in support of that position.
And it's my understanding that is what they are using it for.
So
that they have picked it up and forwarded it to their legal counsel. The city of Newport has, at least.
Okay. And so again, if the city is, or council is interested in a deeper discussion on the more, getting involved in a formal way, or what those options would be, I would recommend we have that discussion in an executive session. But there are lots of opportunities to support in the ways that council has already done, and just continuing on that path.
So what does council feel about that? Do we want to sit and wait and just observe and see what's going to happen? Or do we want to do something more hands-on?
My view would be wait until this next 2 weeks is up, see what happens, and then if it's warranted, then we have an executive session and discussion.
Yeah. Do you mind if I can provide a bit more of an update with some more tangible details? So the Coast Guard, as Savani alluded to, provided a letter to Senator Merkley that stated we always had the intention of keeping the helicopter in Newport, which is contradictory to the fact that they removed it and all of the resources that supported it. They basically vacated the building, so much that the city of Newport had intention to pursue reclaiming the property, because their deed had certain requirements associated with air support provided to the city from the Coast Guard, that they could reclaim it if the property was vacated and not used for that purpose. So they had quite legitimately moved themselves out, so didn't quite align with their statement in the letter to Senator Merkley. Additionally, that letter stated things like on November 24th, the Admiral ordered the helicopter to be returned to Newport. Well, November 24th is when the judge ordered the helicopter be returned to Newport. And so kind of consistently throughout the letter, it was kind of taking credit for what the judge was ordering them to do and trying to make the suggestion that the plan is to keep the helicopter in Newport indefinitely, where the Fishermen's Wives, the city of Newport, and Lincoln County as co-plaintiffs have been mostly concerned is, again, yes, the continuation to fight in court. This court case goes away if they simply say the same intentions to the federal judge. I do know, or I've heard from some of the relevant parties that the state, I know that the state AG is involved in this case as well, in partnering to some extent with Newport and the county and the Fishermen's Wives. It's possible that the ICE detention center might be getting tacked onto this by the state AG. I don't know the details of that, but that is something that that's been shared as well. But I agree with Frank on waiting and seeing, and I do think that from what I've heard from the folks involved in this lawsuit, they are taking the official statements, the resolutions, the letters of support that are coming from neighboring cities, and they are trying to include those to create a regional solidarity around this. So I was able to visit with Lincoln City as well as Philomath, and over the next couple of weeks, we can expect their councils to come out with similar resolutions or similar official actions. In fact, the council in Lincoln City is using our resolution as a blueprint for what they plan to do to support, which was really nice to hear. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of some of the context since I've been participating in kind of the ongoing conversations with folks who are, involved in the lawsuit. But I do think, to Savani's points as well as Frank's, that waiting for now is fine. I think we've got the official statement that provides them a lot of support that they can bring as, legal backing that Toledo is in support of local efforts. I don't think there's anything off the top of my head that I have not included. I know I've been trying to keep Rich updated as things have come about, but I do know that the Fishermen's Wives did release a statement with a lot of concern that the actions of the Coast Guard do not align with the letter that was sent by the Coast Guard to our senators. So it's kind of put your money where your mouth is.
And Council, Paul and I will both make the mental note to anticipate an executive session for your meeting on January 7th. So we'll be ready for that unless there is some significant change between now and then.
On this topic?
Yes.
I didn't hear a consensus for an executive
I
session.
didn't hear one either.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard it mentioned. My bad. Thank you.
And he said he agreed.
And I would rather not have it on January 7th. So I will not be here, or may not be here, probably won't be here,
You shouldn't be here.
whatever.
And for what it's worth, it's my understanding that the city attorney or the city manager could call for an executive session without our consensus too. So if there is kind of the urgent need, or if you guys see kind of a tight window that we might need to take advantage of, I don't know that it has to necessarily come from us for that to happen.
No, but I would like to hear what everybody else up here thinks about this portion of it.
Yeah.
I did jump the gun on that, and you were absolutely correct for pointing that out. Thank you. We'll be monitoring the topic for sure, but I'd love to hear, Council's thoughts.
On having an executive session? Oh, Rod, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think we let our legal counsel call it when it's needed. Number one, I would like Tracy to be in that meeting. She, as we all know, has been a member of this community forever, and I would want to make sure she's there. That's one. Second of all, how do I say this? Reading government speak, yes, those letters are, I'll just say the word interesting and leave it at that. And so I am interested in seeing how this pans out. And we may have to do something sooner. We may be able to hold it off for a week after the 7th. We don't know. I would like to leave that in our council's hands, because I think between Rich and Savani, I think they know what our pulse is and know when we would want to have an executive session to cover something.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with that. I agree with Rod.
And the last time, the county went through this with the helicopter, over a decade ago, that was like a year and a half, 2-year-long process. It was not handled in 30 days. There wasn't, only one opportunity to jump in. So I think there's no urgency. I agree. If we find ourselves with urgency, I agree with Rod. let Savani and Rich kind of say, hey, if we want to do something, now's the time to do it,
Have we exhausted that, or do we need to talk more?
Oh, I think we're good.
It's exhausting.
Exhausted's a good word.
All right,
So
am I.
moving on to a volunteer appreciation.
My creative juices are kind of drying up for some reason right now. So what I'd really like to do is get some feedback from council about creating something where we could make sure that we recognize the people that volunteer. And, maybe it starts out it'd be nice to know each organization that requires volunteers to function and a list of their volunteers. And then just some thoughts that I had about it is, it doesn't take much to say thank you to somebody, but if you don't do it one-on-one, it's not the same as a generic, hey, thanks for the event, and everything that gets put together, like the oh my God, sorry. The event that's down at the ballpark with the fireworks and the.
Summerfest.
Thank you so much. And so that takes a lot of people, and I noticed on Facebook they have some volunteers going, but I think it would help if the city council really reached out and appreciated the volunteers in whatever way that we can. And so I'd like to have some sort of way to bring about acknowledgement.
I have an idea on that, but Rod had his hand up first.
The grill master volunteer.
I agree with you wholeheartedly with what you've said, Jackie. I think one of the things that we have to find is a date, and I would recommend Labor Day weekend, whether that's on Labor Day itself or the Sunday or Saturday, doesn't matter. But it's one of the few weekends that we don't have a lot of conflicting things going on here. And we do need to reach out to all of our folks that use volunteers, and that's everybody from the high school and middle school to the Chamber of Commerce to Summer Festival to the Wooden Boat Show. All the different things that are done in this community by volunteers needs to be recognized. And I think that if we have, pardon me, I think if we have time, no, you don't. I think if we work together and put together a solid program, I think it's something that can gain traction. What I don't want to see us to do is slapstick throw it together. I think our volunteers deserve more than that, and I think that we need to show to this community just how important volunteers are to how everything runs around here.
Is it possible that we could potentially have something like a banquet? I mean, because I think, dollars, oh my God, well, I don't even dare to speak it, but yet,
Well,
recognition.
I was thinking of, for lack of a better word, an old style community potluck.
Yeah.
And we do it.
Old style.
Yeah,
Oh,
an old style community potluck down at the waterfront park. We can cook burgers, dogs, both, whatever. But everybody join in and just bring something to share with everybody, because that's part of what I think this needs to do, is to show the interconnectedness of all of us. And how I don't know you, but you made an impact on this. And I don't know you, but you made an impact on my kids, and so on and so forth. So people can see the impact of our volunteers.
Can we add this to a work session coming up so we can flesh this out even more?
Absolutely.
Because I think we're all getting tired tonight. And it kind of cuts into our creative juices as it gets later.
Speak for yourself, I never had any.
Yes, if we could, I'd appreciate that, because I'm just fry brain here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I also wanted to offer, just as an idea that's to tack onto this, one of the things I got to witness while I was waiting for the discussion point in the Philomath meeting that I attended was they were deliberating on nominations for their Samaritan Awards, which is volunteer acknowledgement. And so these are community volunteers, regardless of whether it's associated with city activities or anything like that. It's basically anybody in the community can submit a nomination for a handful of different awards that have different kind of categories and qualifications, and the city council acknowledges annually a handful of people for being good Samaritans. And I think that's a sort of low-hanging fruit. I'm worried about budget around hosting an event or staffing an event or any of the things that could go into the resources to do, a banquet or a barbecue or anything else that we might do. Even something as simple as having an annual recognition thing like we often have for, VFW comes in and does their annual recognition of one of our service officers. And there could be an opportunity for us to do that for community volunteers as well.
I still like the idea of a community potluck / barbecue. I think that the cost involved is going to be far outweighed by the community connections we make.
Sure.
And the appreciation shown. Now, at that event, we could couple it with your idea, have that happen before, and then we present those awards at the event.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna flesh this out later.
Well, somebody kept talking.
Just saying.
The one little tidbit that I would add to the discussion, and I agree with the mayor's point about finding a date that is not conflicting with one of these events that that needs these volunteers. And I also, especially if the talk is an outdoor event at one of the parks, I don't know necessarily what the weather or the timing would be like.
Let's not have it tomorrow.
No, just mentioning that April is National Volunteer Appreciation Month. So that might be some good timing. The question then becomes, what's the weather going to be like? What other events are taking
We're talking the
place?
second half of April, right?
Correct.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, and it's gotta be after the 15th.
Yeah, and what's the weather like? Yeah, so just throwing that out there for that future conversation.
Okay. So we're gonna add it to, I think we've reached consensus. We're gonna go ahead and add this to a future work session so we can flesh it out.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
All right, so now, moving on to decision items. The first one is a motion to reappoint Cora Warfield to the Planning Commission.
Yes.
And we have Cora's Planning Commission application.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, can we have a vote, Paul? It's moved by the mayor and it is seconded by Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, I thought it was Councilor Sylvia. Thank you. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Sylvia,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilor Chambers,
Yes.
President Mix,
Yes.
Councilor Keating,
Yes.
Mayor Cross.
Affirmative.
Motion passes.
Okay. So that one passed. Motion to reappoint Ann Learned Ellis to the Planning Commission, and we have Ann's Planning Commission application.
So moved.
All right, it has been moved by Jackie Kaufman, seconded by Andrew Keating. Would you like to give us the vote, Paul?
Thank you. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Sylvia,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Chambers,
Yes.
Council President Mix,
Yes.
Councilor Keating,
Yes.
Councilor Kaufman,
Yes.
Mayor Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next, motion to terminate disc golf course license agreement with Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club. And there is an agreement that we have attached here for our appraisal if we want that.
And I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Lorimore for a brief presentation.
You have. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Brent.
As it states here, terminating disc golf course license agreement with Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club. The recommendation is a motion to terminate the said agreement with the disc golf course license agreement between the city of Toledo and Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club. Background is There was an agreement that was made between the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club and the city of Toledo in 2016. Per the agreement that was entered, the golf club was to maintain the trails and goals at the city-owned disc golf course location behind the city library and pool. The maintenance of the area mentioned has not been upheld. The city has reached out to the founding members and associates that are named in and that have signed the agreement. They are uninterested in continuation of that agreement.
I move to terminate the disc golf course license agreement between the city of Toledo and the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Andrew and seconded by
Everyone.
Frank. Sylvia? Who would like a vote? Mr. John.
Thank you. Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Kaufman,
Yes.
Counselor Chambers,
Yes.
President Mix,
Yes.
Counselor Sylvia,
Yes, sir.
Counselor Keating,
Yes.
Mayor Cross.
Yes.
And it is passed. Moving on to the next one, motion to approve hiring DSL Builders LLC to rebuild Memorial Field bathrooms. I'm assuming that is fine.
That was Ryan as well. Thank you. And I will try not to butcher this one.
Butchered the last one?
The recommendation is for a motion to approve hiring DSL Builders LLC to rebuild the Memorial Field bathrooms. I already failed you. The background of this is that the bathrooms were destroyed by an arsonist on March 12th of 2024. In efforts to rebuild the bathrooms, Civil West was hired as engineer to design the replacement bathrooms and solicit contractors to rebuild them. The lowest qualifying bid was from DSL Builders LLC in the amount of $171,500. Being this was an arson, the city has been cooperating with CIS Insurance in handling the claim and approvals for covering the costs to rebuild these bathrooms. The total cost of the city should not exceed the deductible amount of $1,000.
Well, and a lot of other things that you brought us for multiple different people putting in bids. This is the first one that I can remember that the bids were somewhat close to each other, because most times it's like you got the low bidder and there's another 100,000 above the next one. I like these bids.
There was still sticker shock regardless, just throwing it out there.
Does council have any questions for
So
Mr.
did we
Norman?
receive the funds from the insurance company?
We have received funds from the insurance company, that's correct.
I move to approve the hiring of DSL Builders LLC to rebuild Memorial Field bathrooms.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Andrew and, or I mean, it was moved by Frank. And it was seconded by Andrew with Mayor Cross a quick second on the second. So
Just kidding me the holidays.
Frank, Andrew, and we are gonna have a vote.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Kaufman,
Yes.
Counselor Chambers,
Yes.
President Mix,
Yes.
Counselor Keating,
Yes.
Counselor Sylvia,
Yes, sir.
Mayor Cross.
Yes.
It passes.
Motion passes. Thank you, council. I know a lot of people are looking forward to having this completed, one of them being me.
Oh,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Brian, what's the timeline look like? I know that might be it.
Well, we had to get approval from council to move forward, honestly, and so hopefully they can get started soonish. That, I know this has been over a year in the makings and it's dragged on. So as soon as I have a better understanding exactly when that'll start, I will absolutely relay it to you guys
Thanks.
and gals. Thank
We'll
you.
need to negotiate the contract and figure out their availability and construction timeline, but we'll be moving as quickly as we can.
It would, as an aspirational goal, it would be awesome to have them at Summer Festival, but
Yes, it would. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next one?
Yes, we are.
All right. The next one is a motion to approve resolution number 1594, adopting a policy pertaining to community request of strategic reserve funds. I do know we're going to have some discussion on this. Would you like to start us out, Frank? 'Cause
Sure.
I know you had some concerns.
The one major problem I have with this will be section E under number 3, where it says that it has to be a unanimous vote to allocate this money to people. The reason I'm concerned about it is before, with a different situation in the URA, we had a counselor that voted no simply because he didn't like the person. And if one person votes no, it's, forgive me the French, but it screws the people just because one person's got a problem with them. And I really don't like that.
Let me turn to the city attorney. The way this is, and she helped in the drafting of this, and so I'd love for her to speak to the intent here. What I see number 3 saying is, in considering the request, the council will consider the following factors. The way I interpreted that, and I did not get a chance to ask Savani this ahead of time, so I am genuinely asking the question. The way I read that was that was a consideration for council, but not necessarily a requirement. Savani, I'd love for you to speak to that.
Yes, so that was my intent with that, and I recall at least some discussion on that. That's sort of a best, or maybe a best practice of the council, that you would intend in most scenarios that if you're going to award money out of that fund, that it would be unanimous. That of course can be changed, but I think as it's written, it's not meant to be that that's a requirement. Rather, it's something that the council will consider.
I think now, when I read it, I thought it was a requirement.
That's what I thought.
Because I'm not a lawyer, and that's nothing against you. But when it doesn't give you another option, you think it's the rule. So I would like to see the language changed in that to, if we don't want to have a unanimous vote on that, to change it to, does the majority of council, or,
I think in that case, we would just remove E, because majority of council is how we make decisions anyway, right?
Right.
But how does council feel about this?
So what it makes me think of is when we were having the discussion about our resolutions on December 3rd about the ice facility, the helicopter, and we kind of went across the dais and said, how important is unanimity on this, right? So I think when I read, item E here, I felt comfortable with will consider the following factors as being enough to say unanimity is not essential, but we might find that as a council that unanimity is important to us on a particular decision. So I do think that I like it here, but I also am not glued to it. For, Tracy's point, we just remove it if,
And I agree to that. And my big reason is going back to what we said earlier about other things is this council may not be up here 5 years down the road and they may not understand it. I just want more clear language so it's not made a fact that it has to be unanimous, or just remove it altogether.
Well, my question is, do we as a council even want it to be a unanimous decision?
It's sort of as a practical matter, it's not like you would just put 2 items on the agenda. The first would be to amend the policy to make it not a unanimous decision, then you would pass it without unanimous. So functionally, this doesn't actually bind us to making unanimous decisions, even if it were intended in this resolution to bind us. But I think just to me, I think it's a great aspiration that we would agree if we're pulling funds from this. I think we could probably ask the city attorney to reword it, or we could just do it on the fly here. It's a small change, but just to note that the council values unanimous decisions when making draws from the strategic reserve fund. But we can't actually bind, unless you put in the charter, you're just one move away from it being a majority vote anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rod.
I was just going to say, I think Eric hit the intention on the top of the head right there, is that it is our intention that these things are to be unanimous, but not required.
So I would love to hear if it's a consensus from council that you'd like to see maybe a revised take on 3E. And if that's the case, then you can table this to the next meeting and staff will bring it back to you. If the desire was to just strike it, then you could move to pass the resolution as amended. So I'd love to hear what the consensus is specifically.
How many of us would like to strike it? Raise your hand if you'd like to strike it. 4 of us. And how many are okay with it the way it is? You don't get to vote twice, Andrew. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you.
I think it's fine because I think
Well, it's
Eric and
not
I are very
binding.
much speaking the
Yeah.
same language here.
So there were 4 hands saying that you were good striking it. So if
I don't know
that's,
that counts with him.
I've got 2 hands.
you could be fine with both. You know, I can see that.
And each vote. Come on.
So what I was getting at is if that's the general consensus, then I would be open to a motion to approve the resolution amending it to strike 3E. But that, again, that's council's prerogative.
I move to approve resolution number 1594, adopting a policy for the city of Toledo pertaining to community requests for strategic reserve funds with the amendment that we strike item 3E.
Second.
So was I. That's why I looked up there.
So with great pain, I do have like some discussion on the motion. To be clear, I don't actually want us to not, I don't want us to be silent on the value of trying to be unanimous on requests from the Strategic Reserve Fund. Like, I think it is valuable that council would do that. I think the way that it's drafted, to Savani's point, is that, right? It feels like it's not. It feels like it's binding, but it's actually not binding. It's an item for consideration. So I would be in favor of trying to craft something that speaks to that value without binding our hands. So I would, to Rich's point about amending it and bringing it back, I would value that more than voting on it without.
How about, let me word this first before you guys decide if you want to do that and see if this is even possible. What if we kept the wording at the end there, but then had another explanation sentence or something with it that says that unanimous, the decision being unanimous is not required, but it's aspired in some way.
Can we table it?
I rescind my motion.
Yeah,
I withdraw my motion.
Let's just let them wordsmith it and come back to us in a later meeting.
Okay, let's do that. Let's table this until the next meeting then. And Savani, maybe you can play around with that wording a little bit so we all feel like we're covered.
Yes, absolutely. And so because I think it's especially important because this is meant to be a public facing policy that's giving information to the public. So we'll make it more clear and bring it back.
Judy's gotta be as tired as I am.
Well, I'm sorry, we still have a few more things to get
I know.
through.
We'll be quick.
Okay, our next one is a motion to approve a waiver of December code enforcement fee for the city of Siletz.
Thank you, Council President. The city of Toledo and the city of Siletz entered an agreement in August of 2022, an intergovernmental agreement through which Toledo provides code enforcement services to Siletz. In late November of this year, our community services officer who performs code enforcement services for both communities went on what was expected to be a limited duration medical leave. That staff member has had to extend that leave and is currently, the current expected return date is January 15th, 2026. As a result of that, for the entirety of the month of December, the city of Siletz will not be receiving code enforcement services from the city of Toledo. So the contract as currently executed has a monthly cost to the city of Siletz that they remit to the city of Toledo. So the request this evening is for council to approve a waiver of that fee since they will not be getting those services.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Seeing as how he's not gonna be back until January 15th, can we prorate the month of January so they're not paying for 2 weeks, they're not getting service?
I actually don't think we should. Do you want to explain why we shouldn't do that, Rich?
Well, what I was going to say is at this time, I'd prefer the action be done this evening to cover December.
Great.
And then the reason I did not address January in this RCA is that that's an anticipated date. It's been adjusted a couple of times. I would rather address January once we know for sure what date we're gonna have that service back on the.
I just didn't
On
want
the
to
active
charge them for the time that they're not gonna be, he's not gonna be out there.
Absolutely. We'll address that. I think once we know for sure what date the CSO will be back on staff and how much coverage Siletz will receive in that time.
Sounds good to me.
That was perfectly explaining what I was gonna say.
Excellent. Thank you.
Motions, I'm ready for motions.
I would move to approve a waiver of the December code enforcement fee for the city of Siletz.
Andrew was moving already.
There's just that slight delay with the Zoom.
Okay, give me we're giving it to Rod.
I second.
Rod, give it to Rod, Andrew seconded it, okay.
You got the period down.
Mr. Johnson, we are ready for a vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Burns,
Yes, please.
Councilor Sylvia,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Kaufman,
Yes.
Councilor Chambers,
Yes.
Council President Mix,
Yes.
Councilor Keating,
Yes.
Mayor Cross.
Yes.
Motion.
It passes, thank you. Now we're on to reports and comments. The Toledo Police Department has its monthly report in our packet. Did anybody have any questions or comments, or did Sergeant Pitcher, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I have nothing to add. Happy to answer any questions if there are.
Did anybody have any questions?
Well, I just want to know how the pig negotiations came out.
He made it home.
There you go. You had me in stitches.
Love our police. I absolutely love them. All right, Toledo Fire Department, did anybody have any questions for the report, or does Mr. Lapoff have anything additional to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Moving on to the Toledo Public Works update and water loss. We have another huge list of things that we got done and some great information from Brian and the Public Works crew. Brian, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
Unless I'm missing something off the top of my head, no.
How about the contact you had with the people that are gonna strike?
Well, nothing's set in stone yet, but we did find a contractor that was willing to give us an estimate, legitimate estimate to finish the striping of Business 20 that we had repaved in July after being ghosted by SBM multiple times.
Yeah.
We're hoping to sign contract with them and get it done once we have a break in the weather.
Good.
You wanna-
That's
wanted you to-
critical.
I just wanted you to bring that up because the last time I asked you, so you could let them know that this is why it's not being done. Now people can listen and see that it's actually gonna hopefully be getting done soon.
Do you want to make any statement this evening about what other work they may accomplish if our contract negotiations are successful?
Oh, yes, also replacing the thermoplastic railroad crossing signage. We didn't quite get to it. We came into adverse weather, and so plastically have been painting over them. They're actually a thermoplastic. It's a process where part of the pavement's ground down and heated up, and the plastic, more or less, is adhered to it. It sets up. That technically, it lasts longer, theoretically lasts longer than the painting. And I had an email from the Oregon Department of Transportation. They just happened to be in town, and they denoted that our railroad crossings weren't painted. And so it sounded like a good time to jump on that.
Yes, that's good. Thank you for.
Is there anything else I've missed? That was it. Sorry, that was it. It's been a long day.
Appreciate all your work, Brian.
No, appreciate
Good
it.
luck to your
My
team
crew is
tomorrow.
excellent.
The planning department has given us a report. Mayor Cross?
I was just going to say, if anyone wonders why we have to work on I&I, please look at the water tables on how much we produce and then how much we treat. We've got to get a handle on our I&I if we're going to make any headway on our system. And I am greatly, greatly appreciative of Brian and his crew. In the last 2.5 years, they've made tremendous strides in getting our I&I taken care of. But it's going to be an ongoing battle, and I hope that the council remembers this when we come around to budget again, because we have to get a handle on this I&I situation.
For those that don't know, ionized infiltration and intrusion, and it's basically water getting into the system, which makes its way to the plant and takes more processing because, we don't use 30 million gallons of water.
No, we lose.
On average, it's between 500,000 and 600,000 a month. So we reduce that, it's gonna reduce costs, and that's great.
I mean, of that 11,841 approximately are accounted for as being used. So, wow, okay, that's something. So then the planning department has a monthly report here. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? Toledo Public Library.
Harrison is on a much-deserved holiday break. He'll be back next week. But if there are any questions on the report, I'm happy to bring those to him.
He's from Florida.
Yes. Yes,
I said it nicely.
Okay, finance department, Judy.
Madam President, you jumped over human resources.
Oh, I did? Well, I didn't see that page. Oh, here it is. It's the list, not the page. Sorry. And we have human resource. Where is that? I don't have it.
I don't know, my website just died on my computer.
Does anybody else have the human resources?
Rich, it's not on the revised packet that was sent out.
It's not in.
Oh, we listed on the agenda. I apologize, Shauna, if the report didn't get into the packet. Any quick comments you want to make since they didn't have a written report?
I'll just read you what I wrote.
Great. Thank you, Shauna.
So just 3 areas I like to report out on. Is the first one being talent acquisition. The update is the Jensen Strategies has reopened the finance director posting, and it is live on the Toledo website as well as approximately 12 other external sites that they gave us a list of the sites that they post on. For compliance and training, the handbook draft was bumped back to the January 7th meeting for continued edits and clarifications on several policies. And from your discussions tonight on rules and policies and all that sort of thing, you can well imagine that this is a 15-year overhaul working on. So we're wanting to not get it perfect, to Rod's point, but to have it be functional and understandable and as clear as possible. I'm working on making continued progress with the learning division of CIS, which is actually a really good learning and development program that they have. Companies pay a lot of money for similar external programs. And so one of the main processes in being able to roll out training and development for our employees is updating the employee roster with email contact information. And they had about half of our people in there. It was so outdated. So that's been a project. I did preview it was a 36-minute training preventing sexual harassment course, and I'm looking at that for an initial rollout of all of the things that compliance-wise an organization is required to have annual training on their employees for. Preventing sexual harassment is a big one. And so looking at that for an initial rollout after the first of the year. And then as far as benefits and employee support, I've been working really hard to get employee performance evaluations all scheduled and the tracking set up so that we can keep employees working with their managers, getting the feedback that they need, having an opportunity to give feedback to the managers, and notifying the managers when those evaluations are needing to be completed.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
HR is something we desperately need.
We really appreciate you.
Mhm.
So moving on to the finance department. Monthly report. Looks like she just got a list of things there and she made a note to us.
Spring. And it's 10 to 11 in Wisconsin, so hat tip to Judy for powering through with us. Judy, anything you wanted to add to your written report?
I just wanted to really underscore that we really need some budget committee members.
How many empty seats do we have, Judy?
We had 2 last year, and I'm concerned that we might lose an additional one with the re-up because seats expire each year. So we need at least 2.
You can't hold council and that, can you?
No, because council's already a part of it.
It's 2 community members that we need.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Judy. That'll be, I know Councilor Keating has asked about having a meeting with the budget committee before we start the formal process. So that'll be something I'll be looking at immediately after the new year, so we can have that meeting and plan for the process and fill those seats.
Now that brings us to our esteemed city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple quick items, and I will be brief in recognition of time this evening. At one of your meetings at the end of December, Council approved the new franchise agreement with Lincoln PUD. We received that fully executed agreement back from Lincoln PUD. Did I say December?
Yes.
Up here, I said November. Thank you for catching that. End of November. So we received that back from Lincoln PUD. Paul's got it categorized in our roster of agreements, but just wanted to hat tip to the council, to our city attorney, and to the team from Lincoln PUD for the effort that went into finalizing that update agreement. Wanted to let you know that that's been accepted on their side as well. I will be out beginning on Friday through coming back on January 5th, admin leave to burn before the end of the year. As you all have probably learned about me so far, this is never far away from me. I will be checking emails, texts, and so forth. So my staff knows, and letting council know if anything pertinent comes up. I am reachable, and I will be out of the area for a few days around the holidays, but otherwise probably making a dent on my couch. So I'm around. And then I just wanted to share with council, I don't know, I know one of you did. I don't know if everybody noticed the nameplate in front of Sergeant Pitcher this evening. Chief Pace is out on some well-deserved and some otherwise needed leave through January 12th. So Sergeant Pitcher is officially our acting police chief until then. I believe you're also working still your evening shift, Sergeant, if that's correct. So during the day, administrative things can be directed to Wendy, but Sergeant Pitcher is the acting police chief. He has the full authority and powers of a I guess you would say pro tem when it was connected to your city manager position. But our acting police chief is Sergeant Pitcher, and he is responsible for the department. If there's any questions or concerns that come up with council, as always, you can direct those to me, and I will direct them through Sergeant Pitcher. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out directly to him. And that
Every confidence that he will have no problem.
As do I. Madam President, that concludes my report. If there's any questions for council, I am open to them.
Anyone have any questions? Good. City Council issue tracker, we have it in our packet. I don't know if we necessarily need to go over it. Rich, are there any points that we need to look at on this?
Nothing this evening, Madam President. If council has any items that they would like added to that, now would be the time.
I'd actually like to propose that we perhaps look at the issue tracker at an upcoming work session. One thing that really stands out to me is how outdated this feels. I don't think that's anybody's fault. I think that we have been covering a lot in our meeting agendas. I think that the future agenda items list document does a pretty good job of kind of covering a lot of these things. But I'm kind of noticing that, there are a lot of things that are targeted completion dates a couple months ago that I think we've actually completed or are already satisfied, but we haven't really updated. I think it might be good for us at a work session to kind of circle back to things that maybe fell off the priority list, to just kind of get a sense of where we are, whether things are still priorities, and kind of just evaluate the issue tracker and all of its issues as a whole.
And one of the things that we'll do, I appreciated the point you made, Counselor, about the number of things that we've been accomplishing. Our management meetings is usually where we update this. And our last several management meetings have been pretty packed with, things that we're working on. So we'll put that on for a future work session, and I'll make it a commitment that we will get this updated to show where we are with these things accurately at that time. And then you can give us feedback on where, what are your continued priorities? And that's one thing I would like to hear from council is, we've identified these are things that you want to see happen. What's kind of the priority order that you want to?
And that's something that I'd love to see added to it, as well as what the priority kind of status is.
So very good.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have council comments. Let's just start at Jackie Kaufman.
Nothing here.
Frank.
I got none, just have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Ditto.
Ditto. Jackie Burns.
I just wonder, before these guys give their reports, could we move it up on our agenda so you're not held hostage? I mean, I'm just frightfully aware that you guys have to sit through all of this, and I'm sorry. Do we really need to do that? I'm just wondering, help educate me on this one. Would you, Mr. Weber?
Oh, definitely open to the discussion on the order of the agenda. What we've generally done, and Paul has done a really nice job of researching kind of the LOC's template agenda. What we really need to do is make sure that we cover those items, but I think we have local discretion over kind of what order we do them in. So certainly open to making that adjustment. What I would like to avoid is a point in the meeting where the reports are done and everybody stands up and walks out. So maybe if we're going to do that, we plan in a couple minute break, something like that. But I'm definitely open to that.
We've often done that in support of the public who are here for a particular
specific
reason.
item. Yep.
But I think our staff deserve that same courtesy to Jackie's point.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I like that idea, Jack.
And I don't see any of my team disagreeing with you by any stretch. So thank you for bringing that up.
I would take some exception with that.
Yeah, because your meetings
I think it's
are like 20
important. I
minutes
just
long.
happen to be really tired. I haven't gotten to bed before 1 a.m. all week. But no, I think it's important that we hear lots of discussion that goes on. I think some of the things could be moved to work sessions maybe. But that's just mine.
Make it optional.
Great.
Yeah.
The discretion, letting you decide how long you want to stay after hours.
I go to a lot worse meetings than this one, so I'm totally.
Your meetings are like 20 minutes usually.
The order of things here.
Thank you, Councilor Burns.
So was there anything else you needed to say?
That's all I have for now.
Andrew, do you have any?
So my comment actually more begins with a clarifying question. So we've broken out future agenda items from council comments. I think we have typically had council comments as a place where councilors should offer potential agenda items. In the past, I know this has only been the last couple of meetings, we've broken it off as a separate item. Should I save, because I don't have any comments, I just have a request for a future item.
I'm fine with you doing it right now, Counselor, and then that just gets us out of here quicker. Go ahead. Thank you.
But just for future, for future understanding of this process, is the idea that we would save agenda item requests for this particular item?
That's a great question. This has been the format that it's been since I started here. I would certainly be open to combining those two, and maybe in the future we start with as we go into counselor comments, does anybody have any items, and then you go across the dais, maybe something like that?
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is we have kind of stated, understood, here are the avenues for a counselor to get something on a future agenda.
Yeah.
And I believe that the terminology that I had heard through, in my training to be a city councilor included council comments as the place to do it.
Sure.
So I wanted to understand whether it was more that we were reviewing what we were discussing when we get to item 12.
Got it.
Or is that the place where we propose it? So
got it. Okay, great.
Thank you. So my council comment, aka a request to put something on the agenda, is I would love in January for this council to discuss concretely what our city's intentions and plans for Art Toledo are. I think that we have a huge event that Art Toledo puts together for this summer, every summer, the Art Oysters and Brews. The longer we delay a sort of structural staffing, whatever type of capacity the city is putting into that effort, I think we need to figure that out sooner rather than later. I think that that's also valuable as we get into the budget cycle. For us to think about what capacity we need to, as a city, put into keeping Art Toledo successful. Lisa Figueroa played a big role in executing the goals of Art Toledo in our government, but we've kind of struggled with defining Art Toledo as either an initiative of the city, as a separate entity, a nonprofit. I know there were intentions to establish a 501c3 that is outside of the city, that is perhaps in collaboration with the city. Those plans have not come to fruition. Whatever the intentions are, I know that former council president Kim Bush is very interested in helping the city to navigate whatever our intentions are. I am certain that the folks at the Economic Development Alliance will be partnered with for our Art Oysters and Brews Festival, and I believe that they've provided a lot of support for Art Toledo as a whole. I know that they would have a vested interest in helping us to navigate this as well. Whatever the intentions are, I do think that we need to discuss formalizing our understanding of what the city's investment in the project is. And I'd like to see that discussion happen in January so that we can start thinking about it for the budget, what staffing capacity might be necessary, because I think we were asking Lisa to do a lot of work without necessarily recognizing that it was capacity out of her normal job.
Yeah.
And so staffing it with intention is really important. And maybe the answer is, that we want to contract an agency or a nonprofit to take work on our behalf. But either way, whatever the answer is, I do think Art Toledo, and we heard this from the presentation that we received about restoration of the mural and maintaining public art, there is such an interest in efforts like Art Toledo in this community. And I think it really does behoove us to put some structure on.
So,
Sounds good.
saying all that, would you like to add it to the January 21st regular meeting or to the January 28th work session?
I am happy to add it to January. I don't know what else might come up, but I would like to encourage that we invite former Council President Bush to come and perhaps do a presentation or to participate in that discussion. I think a work session might be good for that.
I was going to say, what I would propose would, at the moment, would be the work session. If council's comfortable with it, I'd like to retain the opportunity to move that maybe up as a discussion item on January 21st if something, hefty comes up for the work session.
We've talked about work session for a couple of topics just tonight. So
Yeah.
I also want to be mindful of how much we're trying to shove into a single work session and not repeat the marathon that we just ran.
Agreed. Thank you.
Still running.
We'll look at how to lay out January between those 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
I would like, I don't have anything really for comments that I can think of, but I would like, on the issue tracker, there is an item that I asked to be placed on there and then I dropped the ball on. And that is the mix, it says mix report. What it actually is a host of questions that I've come up with for us to brainstorm some items that were brought to us at the library had a brainstorming. It was a community, you know which one I'm talking about. Eric was there, he was a panelist. And I took notes and then I made up a list of questions that I thought were germane to that, and I wanted to bring it to a work session for us to try to flesh that out into something real, maybe to set some goals and maybe put some actually actionable plans behind that, I guess. So I would like to also put that on the January 28th work session.
We got it. Thank you.
Okay.
You have the.
And it looks like something's going on there, but
It's just the timing. We'll hit it really quick.
Rod, do you have some
Yes.
mayor's comments for us?
Yes, I do. First of all, I wish none of this on you, none of this cold, because
Thank
it's
you.
kind of like the cold, flu, and everything else rolled into one. I wish I would stop getting sick once a year and they just decide to cram it all into one. On as far as what we've discussed, as far as the issue tracker, Rich, if you could reach back out to the nonprofit that brought to us, pardon me,
Bless you.
the possibility of working on a stray cat ordinance.
Yes.
I know this sounds weird, but I've had more than a few calls from a couple of neighborhoods in town about the stray cat issue. And the interesting part is that in some ways it's being used as a weapon against renters. And so I think we need to have something in place to essentially protect our populace.
That was Lisa from the Humane Society, and just as a heads up, she and her partner are spending a couple of months, I believe, touring Europe.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that doesn't fall off because the people are getting a little antsy.
Yeah. Very good. I will increase the priority on that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Do we want to go over future agenda items? I think